Looking for the best astrology guidance? You can enjoy an entire month of personalized astrology services for just $3.99. At Serious Joy, we pride ourselves on providing astrology enthusiasts with exactly what they're looking for. Daily personalized inspiration that speaks directly to the heart. Sign up today and you'll receive personalized messages straight to your phone 7 days a week. And that's just half of it. You'll also get access to our exclusive members-only site with tons of amazing features. Experience the most accurate astrology service on the web at seriousjoy.com.
Hello and welcome to Namaste Today Live. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I'm your host, psychic astrologer, Sensei Christopher Witecki. You know, the word sensei is a Japanese word. It means teacher or guide. And I'm here on my mission to help you reunite with your heart, to help you learn about who you truly are, and to help you discover your unique purposes and mission on Earth. Welcome, everyone. We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, X.com, formerly known as Twitter, and LinkedIn. And if you are in the super chats, please say hello. We have a chat that unites all these different platforms together. We'd love to see where you're coming from and where you are live from. Hello, Adam Turner. So nice to have you on, brother. Sandra O'Connor. Hello, one of our knights in shining armor in our Serious Joy Club. Hello, Nikki. Hello. I can't read that line. There's one person who's like, I cannot read that line. I love the creativity. Hello, April Sparks. So nice to have you here. Hello, Sandra. We said hi to your Eunice. It's so nice to see you as well. Tell us where we're coming from, everyone. Oh, we have some people from Massachusetts. I see someone from Sweden. Opie, is that it? And also Seeking Truth from the Texas Panhandle. Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. We are grateful also for those in the chat. Be sure to say hello to your friends and neighbors. We're an awesome light community, and we're all here for one another. It's going to be a great show today, folks. First of all, thank you so much for your patience last week. I'll talk about it here, but I came down with some food poisoning. I completely lost my voice last week and could not broadcast, but we did present for you our Lights of the Round Table from SeriousJoy.com. I hope you enjoyed it. But tonight we have quite a show for you because the planets are rocking and talking to us. Today on Namaste Today Live, we'll talk about the solar eclipse, which happens in about maybe 20 hours from now at 21 degrees Libra. This is a grandmaster solar eclipse. It's already begun to rock the Earth. We'll also talk about the sun crossing the south node in Libra, which is a powerful time no matter what's going on the Earth. And we have Mercury and the sun conjoining at step 26 Libra at the end of the week, which means your heart and mind will be made up and ready to dedicate. And later tonight on Astro Mingle, we have Shayna Cornelius and Dana Stiles of Dayluna. That's a human design specialist, author, and co-founders of DaylunaLife.com. We're going to talk about what human design is and how it can affect you. But first, let's take a look at the week's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is for Saturday, October 14th to Friday, October 20th, 2023. Looking at your weekend forecast, it's going to be a powerful weekend because we have a new moon solar eclipse on Saturday afternoon. Let's drill down. On Saturday, prior to the eclipse, it's cloudy and emotionally receptive. Step 20 means we've now reached the third chapter of the I Receive Libra transit. Your feelings may feel a little exposed and you may feel a little vulnerable. What you're feeling into is your future, and you're feeling yourself level up. Then the new moon solar eclipse apexes at step 21, which is the birth of a new philosophy about future relationships or a new relationship to your future. And during the whole process, Mercury opposes Chiron, so you may be mindful of a time when things did not go so well. On Sunday, it's sunny and illuminated. Step 21 means that Jupiter rules this day. You are feeling the new story unfolding with a new relationship to the future or a new chapter in a given relationship. And with the moon in Scorpio, you're probably defining the edges of your emotional boundaries with yourself. Moving on to our 5-day weekday moodcast. Over the course of the week, we now take this new philosophy about our future or future relationships, and we move to a commitment. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's sunny and rather moody. Step 22 means Uranus rules the day. Expect the unexpected, relationship surprises, twists and turns, and the universe will be revealing emotional truth with the moon in Scorpio. On Tuesday, it's sunny and rather sharp. Step 23 means Mercury rules the day. You will be able to take that philosophy for the future and boil it down to a new vision for your relationships or your relationship to the future. You're also feeling a line in the sand now. The moon will shift from the high degrees of Scorpio into early Sagittarius. On Wednesday, it's sunny and epic. Step 24 is a grandmaster step of Libra ruled by Venus. You are on this day accepting the terms of this relationship or the terms to your relationship to the future. You're also, with the sun opposing the North Node in Aries and crossing the South Node, releasing finished soul contracts with others. And with the moon in Sagittarius, you're feeling that narrative change. On Thursday, it's cloudy and godly. Step 25 has us called to our highest self. It's a Neptune-ruled degree. We are observing the spiritual fate of our relationships. The choice of what you have to do is evident. And now Mercury opposes the North Node and crosses the South Node, so you intellectually release and finish that soul contract. And then on Friday, it's sunny and anointed. Step 26 means it's ruled by Saturn on this day, and we are feeling it as well, the moon in Capricorn. This is where you will commit to a long-term relationship. The calling is clear, and Mercury and the sun conjoin at step 26 to make your heart and mind on the same page.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
If you haven't already, please be kind and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Serious Joy TV. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And if you wouldn't mind, please like our program so the YouTube algorithm will suggest us to other astrology fans. If you're not aware, Namaste Today is sponsored by SeriousJoy.com. We are a live daily spiritual guidance program. And we have something amazing coming up right now called the 40 Days of Truth and Purpose. This will begin on October 23rd. It's a brand new program at Serious Joy. It's designed for you to know your astrology chart. You'll know every planet, every house in your chart. We include 18 other astrological points, lots, asteroids, and stars. You will come out of this 40 days knowing your life's purpose of incarnation, and you'll know everything you need to know about how to set up your next year. And the most important thing, where you cannot get anywhere else, you'll understand completely the step astrology system and how it applies to your chart. We'll have more details at the end of the show about the 40 Days of Truth and Purpose. I, for one, am excited. And with that, it's time to move on to our planets and transits. Well, my friends, we're in the powerful sign of Libra right now, and it is more powerful than usual because energetically we're going through a major shift of power. I mean, if you think about it, relationships in the world are all based upon how power is derived, right? It's all who you know, it's who makes it to the top, it's what a person does when they get to the top. And so when we come into the Libra season year after year, we realign ourselves with certain people or we disalign ourselves with certain people. But this year we have some really profound energy happening on the planet. And I've just got to say, this is exactly what I was talking about. It's sort of interesting, actually, because I was off the air for 1 week. And as I was gone, shift hit the fan. Did it not? Like, holy moly. I've been talking about this moment that we happen to live in, to me, really is the greatest moment in human history. And it is actually here. I know it looks ugly right now, and I know it may be a little scary with a lot of unknowns, but I just want to underscore, and I'll be underscoring tonight, this is the cue, in my opinion, for the race of light, the people who are here to raise the vibration on the planet. This is your call to stage. And there are so many aspects going on. But before we dive into what your call may be and how you may participate, let's talk about sort of what's happening with the transformation of power right now. These are things I've been hitting and talking about week after week since I came back on the air in May. But now we have some very clear evidence of it, right? First of all, last week, Pluto stationed direct at step 27 Capricorn. Now, remember, that's an important degree because that is the Pluto degree of the United States chart that was actually began, according to us astrologers. We look at the Declaration of Independence. When the forefathers signed that declaration, that indicated a transformation of power. I had mentioned about a week and a half ago that as soon as Pluto stations direct, a little before, a little after, we would have to have or begin to see some major power conflicts. And indeed, we are seeing those conflicts. In fact, since Pluto station direct, we've seen some governmental power struggles, especially here in the United States. We had Kevin McCarthy, for one, voted out of the Speaker of the House. First time in American history that we voted a Speaker of the House out of office. Pretty profound. Also, in the same time period, with Pluto moving direct at 27 degrees Capricorn, we had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announce that he would run for president as an independent, a third party. And the last time we had that sort of disruption, I think, was Ross Perot in the early 90s, if you remember. So that is also historic in the making, another sign of governmental power struggles. But I also spoke to many times about the placement of Neptune, that Neptune is in the same place it was just prior to the American Civil War. I've often spoken about that placement in Neptune. Neptune is about getting to our spirituality. It's about getting to our morality, about really coming and uniting under a common moral cause. Obviously, the American Civil War, that moral cause had to do with the end of slavery. But now that Neptune is once again in Pisces, just in this last week, a brutal and horrible attack from Hamas, attacking innocent Israeli civilians, again, based on moral and religious notions. So I think we're seeing evidence of that Neptune placement. Then I've also spoken to the fact that Uranus in Taurus is in the same place that it was in World War II, just prior to the invasion of Poland. And one of the aspects of Uranus in Taurus is the use of technology for dark purposes. That's what we saw the last time, that dystopia part of Uranus versus the utopia part of Uranus. Back when Uranus was in Taurus the last time, that was the beginning of missiles, of jets, basically, of nuclear power and nuclear potential and nuclear bombs. So it was a dark time. And we're seeing some of that theme again this time. We're seeing, for instance, the posting of really horrible pictures on social media. We're seeing social media used for political gain and for influence. And we're also seeing some power struggles as well, of course, with Hamas and with Israel there, with technology, a heavy component of that conflict. I also spoke to Eris, which is at 24 degrees Aries, Eris being the personification of chaos, of strife, and of discord. And I think, once again, the recent Israel-Hamas conflict is evidence of that. But of course, we also have Ukraine, and we have some other regions on the earth that also look like there's potential for a breakout. So in essence, my friends, this might feel a little dark. There's certainly a lot of shakeup going on, but I'll have to say, for most astrologers, we actually are not surprised, because this is what we were sort of anticipating. Not exactly. In fact, a lot of people asked me, did I think it was going to be COVID coming back again? It didn't feel like that psychically to me, but I did feel something dark and on the horizon. And with that, interestingly enough, of course, it was something I never would have expected. Obviously, the Middle East has always been a hotbed of conflict in particular, but it seemed to sort of settle down for a little while to some degree, not really well, but it did look like for a moment we're on the path of peace, and all that, of course, has been disrupted. But again, I don't feel like we should fall into fear or fall into worry, because I honestly believe this was what we came to solve here on Earth. What we're seeing with all these big conflicts come together, like, again, Pluto in the same place as the American Revolution, Neptune in the same place as the Civil War, Uranus in the same place as World War II. It's all these world conflicts that we've had for some time now, in the last 250 years, and we're actually being given an opportunity to respond differently to this conflict. I believe this is the reason that we were born to live. I believe we signed up for this, and I've said this before, that I believe that there are two reasons basically you were born in this lifetime. One was to clear your own karma with yourself, which is what we've been doing since Neptune entered into Pisces in 2012. And secondly, I feel that we were all here to resolve the fate of the earth, whether or not we would end in a utopia with love and peace and tranquility for all, or a dystopia where personal rights and freedoms are taken away and people are living in an unhappy way. And although it may look like there's no hope or the ability for an individual to make a difference, I disagree. I believe each of us hold the power to transform reality. We are powerful manifestors. And today's show will talk about not just manifestors, but generators and projectors and reflectors. We'll talk about that as well, where we have the power to transform our reality. And it starts with the individual, and it starts with living in your heart. We've all seen the history. We've all seen the choices we made in the past as a civilization. And now we have a new option. I call for a creative renaissance. And I believe that's what really the Venus retrograde in Leo was doing over the summer. We had that retrograde from July 23rd to September 5th. It was the first time Venus has ever retrograded exclusively in Leo since 1812, and prior to that, 1772. So it's a big deal, Venus retrograding through Leo. Notice, by the way, that the last times Venus retrograded through Leo was right before the American Revolution and right before the War of 1812. Sort of interesting. And what it represents is a change of heart within us, that all of us now are ready to change our heart story and to change our heart's narrative. And I believe that change of heart is, in essence, what you're here to do. I believe it is your purpose and your calling. And I believe this is the renaissance that's upon us. We don't have to respond the way we have been in past conflicts in the past. We can respond differently. And that's what I'll be up here week after week talking about. I believe that response needs to be one from the heart. And I believe that out of all the choices we have right now, and I'll just keep saying this over and over again as we begin from this week, the universe or the world in the entire age of Pisces has always said to us that we have two choices, always two choices. It's either the choice between the two conflicted parties, or it's the choice between good and evil, or it's the choice between, different races of nationalities. And the truth of the matter is, I feel like we have only one choice, that I think that we need to avoid being pushed into these two choices and instead choose one choice, which is to live through our heart and to unite the light. And with us now in the sun in Libra, where does that take us in the context of this situation? And where does that take us when it comes to our individual story? Well, as we move on to this week in Libra, and we have a very powerful solar eclipse tomorrow, I believe the universe right now in this moment is calling for us to unite the light, unite the hearts of humans, unite the hearts of men and women, unite the hearts of humans and even the hearts of animals and the plant kingdom on earth. It is up to us, I believe, individually to choose to unite with other people that are talented like us. I believe it's time for the talented to unite with the talented. I believe that is going to be the response of what happens. Of course, you'll see, I think, on the world stage, countries uniting with countries and taking sides. But ultimately, we, the people, hold the power of whether or not things move forward by what we put our time, our heart, and our energy into. And this week, I believe, creates a brand new narrative. It's time to unite the light, unite the talented with the talented. It's time to opt out of the divide and conquer narrative. And it's time to opt into the love and unite narrative. Now, with that said, this is a very powerful week, actually. I'm not surprised that these world events happen just prior to a solar eclipse. That's actually rather common. Forget Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus and the placements of where they are and where Eris is in the placement of where Eris is. Just a solar eclipse quite often can sort of rock the boat. And I will say, everyone, be careful if you live on a fault line or near a volcano or whatnot. Again, not putting out fear, but this particular eclipse will be a powerful one because it is going to be just 3 degrees from the south node in Libra. And the closer an eclipse is to the nodes, the more powerful and magnetic those eclipses actually are. So we're up for a profound change. And I believe a lot of the shift show that we've been seeing in this last week has also been multiplied by the eclipse. I myself have been quite tired. I think last week I went down a little early. I always go down a little early so that I can be there for my subscribers and viewers when the shift hits the fan. So as we move on to this week, let's talk about this week. This week, I am titling the week, Casting the Mission and Solidifying the Team. This is the week where we are going to set a new narrative for how we see the future. I would not be surprised that by the end of this weekend, something may unfold in this eclipse energy and in these world conflicts that allows us to rewrite the narrative. And the best way to think of the narrative is sort of the title of the movie. You might have thought you're on the Love Boat. You might have thought you're on Fantasy Island, but you're actually, and I think you will name whatever that title is this week. And that eclipse really is the naming of that title. But what's happening underneath the consciousness is that we are divorcing ourselves, I think, from certain world conflict. And that's what I said 2 weeks ago, that we're leaving behind certain conflict. Meaning that we don't want to participate in that conflict. We don't want to be a part of that conflict. And we, in a sense, are casting our mission and uniting with our fellow talented earthlings here on Earth. Now, the question of the week to ask yourself is, what conflict must I avoid? What conflict must I avoid? And I say that because I think a lot of the dark actors on the planet, the negative actors on the planet, when I say dark, by the way, I mean fearful, ones who are operating out of fear, anger, hate, despise, that sort of thing. They are counting on our population's response. They are feeding off of our population's response. And so I think the greatest power you have is to avoid certain conflicts, to deliberately not feed the beast, not feed the beast with what we post, not allow ourselves to get caught up in arguments with one another, not allow ourselves to get angry at our brothers and sisters. I believe that's what the beast wants from us, and we can starve the beast to death if we remain neutral and we refrain from certain conflicts. Now, in your own personal life, I believe this means that to move on to your next narrative, to your next story, the story, what I call you were born to live, which I think is what's actually happening here underneath the seams, is that we are all moving into a new story. I'll talk about that with Mars and Saturn this week, for instance. I also believe that you will be tempted this week to fall into the old conflicts. So be careful to get back in a fight with your ex. Be careful to respond to some old conflict you've had, or to feed any conflicts in your life. This is the week, with the sun crossing the south node or opposing the north node, however you want to look at it. This is the week to opt out of those conflicts and to opt into love and a united narrative. And in the most basic metaphysical form, it means that you starve the situation by not responding and feeding the situation. To me, that is our greatest power that we have. We underestimate as a population how our own spiritual energy is actually hijacked and harvested by certain bad actors on the planet. And if we simply refuse to reply to that and instead invest in our hearts and our love and what our heart wants, I believe that is one way to defund the negative actors on the planet. And so this week is very important, particularly for yourself, to not respond to conflict in your own life, to go ahead and let that one roll off your back. To say an old saying, basically, it's sort of like lose the battle to win the war. You probably heard that before. That could be not more important than this week alone. This is the week where we go ahead and lose the battle, because it will bring you into a winning position when it comes to whatever this war happens to be. Now, we have an amazing angel reader on SeriousJoy.com named Devin Dewar, and she, in our you saw a sample last week of our Unite the Light and our Lights of the Round Table panel that we do. She always brings the angel impressions and messages in. And the message she brought in for this week was that the angels are saying for you to not react or respond to the people who refuse to learn. And we know that's true. There are so many I can name people in my family. I can name people everywhere that seem to refuse to learn. And quite often we always feel like it's our job, especially light workers and love walkers. It's our job to inform and to educate. But I think at this point, it is show time. It is time for us to be bright. It's time for our creative renaissance. And every time that you try to educate someone that refuses to learn, you're only depleting your energetic resources. And honestly, that person must find another place to feed energetically. So let's try not to get caught up in responding to people that refuse to learn. Be gracious, be forgiving, be neutral. I think that's the greatest way to move forward with this. And again, I'm just looking at the world conflict. I'm looking at all the conflicts in the planets. And I'm also looking at the history of humankind and seeing how we have been hijacked into certain world scenarios And I think this is the moment where we wake up and we refuse to play in that game or get caught in those games. And most of the power is that we get caught in conflict that drains our batteries and wears us down and takes us away from the real work we've come to do. Now, with that said, this week, the sun in Libra is at a very powerful spectrum of Libra, probably the most powerful spectrum. We're moving from step 20 Libra into step 26 Libra by the end of the week. And the 20s, first of all start with the number 2, which is emotion. So I find it really compelling that we launch this week with a new moon solar eclipse, new moon, step 2, solar eclipse, which really is going to amp up the emotions on the planet this week. One thing about Libra is we're very sensitive and it can tip the scales, but it's only when it gets into those step 20s that things get really passionate and can get really radical. So I think that so far, looking at the stuff I've seen happen in the world, we've mostly reacted rationally. I've seen it just watching the social media and people's responses. People have been mostly intellectual about it. Their feelings have been present, but we've mostly had a lot of intellectual conversation. This is the week where people will get very passionate. They'll become very emotional. And so part of the week is actually navigating your own emotional response to the situation. Like they say on an airplane, take care of your own oxygen mask before you try to put the oxygen mask on someone else. And that will definitely be a smart component to operating this week, to really be in touch with your own feelings and what your feelings need, because the emotional spectrum on the planet is going to be, I think, magnified by the step 20s and also by the eclipse. But step 20 to step 26 Libra is ultimately the degrees that lead up to long-term relationship commitment. So when we get committed to an organization or get committed to a cause, or we get committed to a person that we marry or partner with, or a business partnership, that the spectrum of 20 degrees to 26 degrees Libra is that conscious perspective and spectrum is the word I was looking for. Per spectrum. That's the conscious spectrum of commitment or not commitment. So in essence, what you're doing this week is you are determining whether or not you're going to be committed to a particular person, organization, or situation. You're also going to probably be divorcing situations with the sun crossing over the south node and opposing the north node. And ultimately, what we're trying to get to the bottom of this week, in this emotional week, is am I going to be committed or devoted, either to a particular relationship or devoted to a relationship to the future? And I want to really underscore that. Is my future bleak? Is my future optimistic? Is my future hopeful? This idea, what is your relationship to the future? Are you afraid of the future? Are you looking forward to the future? Are you embracing the future? That's the other relationship that I think we want to be hyper conscious of this week. Now, with the Earth in Aries, as the sun is in Libra, as you negotiate what your relationship to the future is going to be, the Earth in Aries gives you the action plan, gives you the task list that must happen. So if you ask yourself, I don't know what to do about the future, I would say you probably don't know your relationship to the future. That's why you're not clear on what to do in the future. So to really crystallize, what is my relationship to the future going to be? And, just like if you're getting married to another person, when you stand at that altar, you make vows for how that marriage will be. It's still up to you to actually pull it off. So you're not lying to yourself when you say, I want a relationship to the future where I'm hopeful for the future, where I'm excited about the future, where I love the future. That's what you want to get married to this week. And it will be from that point of commitment that you then actually pull it off. So you're not lying to yourself, and you're certainly not denying when you make a vow to have a positive and creative relationship to the future. Now, our mind, Mercury, is going to work through all the data points of our relationships this week. We go from step 16 Libra to step 27 Libra. So you will, if you are in negotiations with someone romantically, professionally, a team, a corporate alliance, or even your relationship to the future or a concept like your relationship to a political party, for instance, Mercury this week is going to allow you to go through all the data points. And ironically, Mercury will end the week at step 27 Libra, which will square Pluto at step 27 Capricorn. So inevitably, I just want to say all of us are going to end the week with some sort of minor conflict with the current power structure. Now, I don't think that's very surprising because honestly, the power structure is not serving us. We have great poverty on the planet. The value of our money and currency is falling. We have nations arguing with each other. We have people struggling to pay the bills. So it's not surprising that no matter what we go for, you will end up in some sort of a conflict with a form of power on the earth, which is Pluto in Capricorn. That doesn't mean you'll be in literal conflict, but you'll definitely be pushing for things that are not available right now. But that's what we need to do as a collective consciousness, is rally behind those points. So this is a great week to negotiate, to go through all the different points of interest in your relationships, and to really get nano on those things. Now, this week, emotionally, it's a very emotional week. We start the week with the moon in Libra. And that is, of course, right now and tomorrow. We have that new moon solar eclipse in Libra apexing in the afternoon here in North America tomorrow. It's a step 21 solar eclipse. I'll talk about it when I show you the chart. It's an optimistic and hopeful new moon. So there's that. But between now and the apex tomorrow, you might go through a myriad of feelings as you are processing and wringing out what is not relevant emotionally in order to rally behind your new vision for your mission and the mission for your team, for whoever you are teaming up with in life. But the moon then moves into Scorpio on Sunday. So on Sunday, you start to get really personal emotionally. And I'll talk about this in another moment here, where you really will realize you've got to draw some lines with yourself if you're going to pull things off and go the way you want things to go. So things get a little serious on Sunday. I'm calling that a solar eclipse hangover. So definitely be careful. If someone goes out boogieing and partying Saturday night, be very, very careful. The planets are definitely kind of pushing things to an extreme. But whether or not you party on Saturday or not, Sunday, I think we'll all be a little energetically hungover, and we'll all be sort of scrambling to feel safe and secure. Then on Monday, you start to emotionally define your boundaries with other people. Then on Tuesday, with the moon in Scorpio in the first part of the day, you emotionally define your boundaries or define the edges of what you feel about the future. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, it's sort of like on the eclipse tomorrow, we say, this is my vision for the future. And then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you end up carving out, well, if that's my vision for the future, then I've got to emotionally be unattached to this. I've got to emotionally connect and attach to that. So we have to refine all of our boundaries with everyone, all of our emotional limits with everyone. That sort of is the follow through of that Grandmaster solar eclipse in Libra at 21 degrees. Then later Tuesday, the moon moves into Sagittarius. So having emotionally processed where the boundaries are, then you start to realize that your story is changing. Your story with yourself, you feel that on Tuesday. You feel your story with others playing out on Wednesday with the moon in Sag. You feel your story changing with your future on Thursday. And then on Friday, the moon goes into Capricorn and you become resolute and ready to commit. In fact, it's a super commitment day next Friday, 1 week from this show, because not only is the moon in Capricorn, which is the time when we make emotional commitments and emotional decisions, but we have the sun and Mercury conjoining on that same day at Grandmaster step 26, which is a Saturn ruled degree. So basically, through the whole week, you're basically processing whether or not you're going to team up or marry or partner or divorce. And you will know with clarity next Friday. So my little bit of advice is, no matter how you feel with a person or a situation, give yourself till Friday to actually make up your mind and commit. Give yourself the full week and let that solar eclipse sort of wear off of your energy, because it's going to be very powerful and it'll be in place. Energy stays in place until the next eclipse, which is going to be 19 degrees Aries in 2024. That's our next solar eclipse, 19 Aries. Now, with all that big picture stuff of relationships and marriage and partnership, we have a lot of change in ourself this week, a lot of inner fortitude work. In fact, this week is technically the first day of the rest of your life. This is the first day of the rest of your life this week. Day meaning a whole week. Okay, basically. And that is due to a couple of interesting things happening. Mars now in Scorpio at 0 degrees, from 1 to 5 degrees Scorpio. Mars is the cutting agent. Mars is what actually enforces. Mars is calling for you this week to enforce boundaries with yourself. Basically, God is calling in that loan of extra time you asked for. You know, you say, "I need a little more time for me to quit doing this or to start doing that." Well, God is saying, you're out of time. It's time to call in the loan on time. It's time to follow through. So this is a week where if you don't apply the discipline to yourself and say no where you know you need to say no, and say yes to yourself where you know you need to say yes to yourself, you will not, in my opinion, move on to the next spiritual timeline. Why is that? Well, because Mars is trining Saturn in Pisces and Neptune in Pisces through the whole week as it goes through. Saturn is now at 0 degrees Pisces. 0 is the new beginning of the new spiritual story. Saturn entered into Pisces in March for the first time since 1994. That's right, 94. It's a 29.5-year transit, basically, which means it was time now to take responsibility for our spiritual story. Saturn moved all the way to 7 and then retrograded back to 0. 7 is the spiritual story. Pisces is the sign of 7. So Saturn went from 0 to 7 and back to 0 again. That was the taking responsibility for your karma with yourself and releasing the karma and forgiveness with yourself. Now that Saturn's at 0 degrees, it's now time to live the new karma with yourself. And when I say karma with yourself, I mean the energy that you fall into with yourself. Do you fall into depression? Do you fall into low self-esteem? Do you fall into self-hate or self-loathing? Do you go cold on yourself? Do you abandon your heart with yourself? Do you overeat? Do you undersleep? Do you under-exercise? These things that with ourselves, these are all evidence of our karma with ourself, which is our long-term relationship we've had with ourself. And now that Mars is in Scorpio and trining Saturn in Pisces, Mars is the actual follow through, the actual closing of the door and the opening of the new doors. Saturn in Pisces has been mostly just a concept. Mars now picks up the sword, what I call Excalibur, and says, okay, it's time to cut those karmic cords with ourselves. It's time to open up the door of the new possibility. And so if you're wondering, am I moving on to my new spiritual timeline or not? It all comes to whether or not you are enforcing those boundaries with yourself or not enforcing those boundaries with yourself. Now, with Saturn at 0 degrees and Neptune at 25 degrees, that means that God is literally creating like parentheses from the start of your spiritual story to Neptune at 25 Pisces, which is your destiny and where you will be. Now, by the way, the last time Neptune was at 25 degrees Pisces was February 11th, 1860, which is just prior to the Civil War that started on April of 1860. So we are now at February before the April of the American Civil War as far as the placement of Neptune. That's how close I believe the United States is in a civil war, although I don't believe it will be a violent war because this is the next time around of Neptune. Remember, when we have a transit, we go up. So if we were violent the first time, we will be not as violent the next time, if not violent at all. So I'm not predicting violence, but I am predicting that the United States, anyways, and its karma will be in some sort of a civil disagreement about what our morality is. That's Pisces, over certain issues, much like we were. But your place in this is to get to your place or to get to your karma with yourself. So when these moments come, you have a spiritual vote that is echoing the new you and not the old you. We don't want to be fighting our own karma when we're trying to speak for the direction of the earth, because we'll be projecting our own stuff and our own baggage onto very important earth elements. So this is your chance this week to get it right with yourself and to draw that line with yourself. Mars will give you the power, the strength, the fortitude, the courage. So don't worry. You'll find that you have the courage to stop smoking or start doing this or whatever. You'll feel you have that fortitude inside of you. Now, moving on to Virgo energy. Another part of our inner fortitude has to do with Venus now in Virgo and Black Moon Lilith now in Virgo. Venus goes from 4 degrees Virgo to 10 degrees Virgo. We've already done this work earlier when the sun was in Virgo, in the sense that we already decided what we need to become on the inside, who you need to become to yourself. This ties into Mars and Saturn. Who must I become inside? I must become the positive one. I must become the loving one. I must become the caring one. I must become the healthy one. We know it's time to become this. It's time to get used to it. And remember, we all are emotionally conditioned, especially by our dysfunction and especially by our shadow. So when you do the right thing, when you haven't been doing the right thing, it feels uncomfortable. It feels foreign. It feels weird. Try eating healthy. It doesn't feel right for a long time. So part of this week is about getting used to, getting comfortable, opening up, allowing, expressing, getting comfortable with this new person you're becoming on the inside. And with Black Moon Lilith in this space of Virgo, it does mean you have to simultaneously face any fears about what you may become. So if you're afraid of becoming an addict, or you're afraid of becoming a victim, or you're afraid of becoming a victimizer, someone that takes their anger out on someone else, whatever you're afraid of becoming, it's now time to face those fears. And the way you face it is by loving yourself and being there for yourself. If you love and be there for yourself, you'll work your way through it. By the way, the last time Black Moon Lilith was at 1 degree Virgo was December 7th, 2014. So if you have a diary or you can remember those times, December 7th, 2014 was the last time you were facing the fear of becoming something on the inside. Then we move to the Taurus energy. And Taurus has been very electromagnetic. We've had Jupiter at 13 and Uranus at 22 for about a week. In fact, all these things that happen on Earth that I talked about in the open of the show all happen with that vortex open of Jupiter and Jupiter and Uranus, both at net 4s. Jupiter moves to step 12 this week from 13 to 12. It is retrograde, and 12 is the new story. So this is another piece of evidence in the planets that we are crafting a new story. Jupiter at 12, that's a Grandmaster degree for Jupiter. Jupiter's the ruler of 12, or net 3, as I like to say. And so that tells us that when it comes to the life you are making, Jupiter and Taurus is, what life am I making? Am I making a beautiful life, a hardworking life, a struggling life? Well, the life that you're making, we are crafting a new story now with Jupiter at 12. Uranus at 22 means as you craft that new story, you shatter the ceiling of what's possible. Uranus at 22 means you change the dimension of what's possible. So change your daily life, change the story of your daily life. Now, I can't stress enough what story is. Story is that thing you tell yourself over and over and over again. So if you say, my life is hard, my life is impossible, I'm the unlucky one, I never get chances, nobody helps me out, I'm always abandoned, that story, that his story that you are saying right now, Jupiter's going to say, okay, I guess this person is going for another round of that. The planets have eternity. They can come back again in 12 years with Jupiter and Taurus, and you can change your story then, or you can change your story now. So it's really important that that story you keep telling yourself changes this week. And don't worry about getting it perfect or getting it right. It just has to be not the story you used to tell yourself, to get yourself out of that rut and to start law of attracting possibilities with the power of Jupiter. It's a very powerful planet. Now, by the way, the last time Uranus was at 22 degrees Taurus was February 15th, 1941, right? 1941, which is, December of 42 is when the United States was attacked on Pearl Harbor. So to give you some context for our U.S. citizens, but of course, Europe was engulfed with tragedy and conflict already by that time. And then, of course, we have the sign of conflict, Aries. With Aries, we have, of course, Chiron in Aries this whole week at 17 degrees Aries. So we're healing the times in our life where we made poor decisions in our life. That's what 17 is, the times I made poor decisions. So we are going to be healing those moments. The North Node at 24 degrees Aries conjoining Eris at 24 degrees Aries is saying it is time now to stand up against discord. 24 is the sign of peace. So peace treaties happen at 24. A ceasefire, if I was going to find what's ceasefire in astrology, ceasefire is 24 Aries. That's a ceasefire. That's when you lay down your weapons and you negotiate. You find the diplomatic Libra, 24 net 6, you find the diplomatic Libra. So although the North Node is on Eris, the planet of discord, basically, and in some cases terrorism as well, it is for the purpose of step 24, for the purpose of peace. By the way, the last time the North Node was at step 24 at this degree and minute was February 9th, 2005, February 9th, 2005. The last time Eris was at 24 Aries was January 29th, 1501. 1501. So do the math and figure out what that means. From what I understand, I've been talking to a couple other astrologers. You know who you are out there. Apparently, back in that time, there was a lot of religious warfare going on at that time as well. So an interesting connection there, but I haven't done the research myself yet to verify that. And then lastly, of course, Pluto, bad dad Pluto at 27 degrees, now direct in Capricorn, is saying it is time to move forward now and make changes to the way you govern power, the way you govern power, the way you allow power to govern us. As I've said many times, the last time Pluto was at 27 degrees Capricorn, direct for the final perfection, was November 7th, 1777. And we were already into the American Revolutionary War by that point, as far as conflicts are concerned and military buildup is concerned. So as you can hear, things are pretty intense going on with the planets. Let's take a look at the charts. This is the last thing I want to do before we talk about how this will affect you personally. I'm going to do a screen share here. 1 second. And we will take a look at a couple of things. I got to move stuff around here. Okay, first of all, again, stay tuned for Astro. We have Astro Mingle coming up with Dayluna, these two lovely ladies here, Scorpio and a Leo. I'll tell you right now, can you guess who's the Scorpio and who's the Leo in that picture? We'll come back and answer that question after the break. The first chart, of course, is this. The new moon solar eclipse apexing East Coast time at 1:55 p.m. I understand it's going to display across Canada and North America. I know a lot of people are having solar eclipse parties tomorrow. This eclipse is at 21 degrees and 8 minutes. Very interesting. Notice that this is just a 3 degrees. So 21 nets to a 3. 3 is Jupiter. So this is a Jupiterian eclipse. Jupiter is still at the cosmic 13 net 4. So Jupiter itself is still a multi-dimensional degree. So the fact that this is a Jupiter ruled degree with Jupiter at multi-dimension, this tells me that fate has not been determined, folks. This is going to be what determines fate based on what you believe. This is also a grand master solar eclipse because 2 is the moon and 1 is the sun. So we actually have the number 2 and the number 1 conjoining in astrology, the sun being number 1, the moon being number 2 in human consciousness, our heart and our emotions coming together to net 3 form a new belief. Also what we have here, what I call a dilated yod. A dilated yod is when the yod point is not specific. There's a 3-degree orb. Also pretty interesting. We have a 3-degree orb on a net 3 solar eclipse. So this is going to be a profound change in what we believe. This dilated yod is more powerful than a normal yod because it has a spectrum of consciousness. And what it brings into here is our destiny, Neptune at 25 degrees, and the revolution of technology and production and whatnot. So the revolution of reality, the destiny we're born to live, all pouring in here to a new purpose and new belief for the future, a belief about how we should come together or not come together. The South Node represents where we will not come together. The Sun-Moon conjunction represents where we will come together. At the same time, Mercury at step 17 says we're also committing to our local connections. So this is a local commitment, and this is a global commitment that's happening at the same time. Mars at step 1 says you better cut those cords with yourself. And as you can see, Mars is trining Saturn, which is the beginning of that new spiritual story that will happen. Funny how Mars is saying cut those cords. Black Moon Lilith at 1 degree says don't fall into fears about loving yourself. And these are, of course, sextiling. So cutting these cords probably also means cutting out the fear with yourself as well. So a very powerful solar eclipse. Pluto at 27 and pretty much squaring the energy means that, you know, by the time the sun hits 27, it will square Libra. And that will be when shift hits the fan, I think. This declaration, this new belief is the beginning of that inevitable conflict with current world power. Later that day, as soon as we have the eclipse, after the eclipse apex is about 4 or 5 hours after the eclipse, Mercury then opposes Chiron exactly at 17 degrees. So this means that this commitment you're making in day-to-day life most likely is triggering or activating a memory either from this life or a past life where you made the wrong choice. So there will be some fear and maybe some trauma clearing about having made the wrong choice in the past. But remember, you heal that by making the right choice in the present. The next interesting key date is Wednesday, October 18th. I always say hump day is the day that things actually change. What's compelling about this is the day when the sun will conjoin the south node, or you could say oppose the north node at step 24. This is where we will divorce from world conflict. This is where I argue next Wednesday, I argue you to not opt into the conflict, but instead to opt into Eris North Node, some sort of place for peace. And if nothing else, this will be the divorce of certain relationships that may be toxic in your life. You may not tell them that this is the divorce, but you may come to the realization that it does need to happen and it does need to end. That could also be divorcing from a vendor or a strategic alliance or a business partnership. Mars at 4 says that it's going to be a brand new day with ourself on this day. And with Venus at 8 degrees, we are committing to becoming someone different inside of ourselves. So I really want to point out this relationship. The way you can leave the toxic relationship to the company or the vendor or the person is because you are facing your fears about becoming someone. You are becoming radically transformed in your boundaries with yourself. And if you don't transform your boundaries and you don't commit to becoming who you want to be on the inside, it'll be very difficult to leave those codependent, toxic, whatever may be there. So be conscious. Your power in the outer world is all based on you owning your power in the inner world. Notice Juno entering the party here in Virgo at step 0 on the same day. The very next day, Mercury follows suit, and also Mercury also conjoins the South Node. So realize your heart will be in it on Wednesday and your mind will be ready on Thursday. So keep that in mind. It's a 2-day commitment to leave that toxic situation. Your heart decides Wednesday. All right. Your heart, the sun, and your mind decides on Thursday. All right. Just so you know. Then on Friday, we have, let's see, I think we have 2 things going on here. Just which one goes first? This is 8:50 a.m. and this is 1:37 a.m. So actually they're backwards here. That's all right. We'll go backwards. So on Friday, the first thing we have happen here is Mercury will conjoin the sun. This is powerful. Mercury has finally caught up to the sun after retrograding in Virgo for 3 weeks. This means that your heart, step 1, and your mind, step 5, come together to commit. So where this was us divorcing the South Node on Wednesday, we're getting married on Friday. So it's a shotgun divorce marriage, folks. I wonder if Vegas can do instant divorces just like they can do instant marriages. But ultimately, at this point, next Friday is when you commit. The heart and mind come together. I'm amazed that they come together at Saturn 8 degrees together at a net 8. That's pretty impressive. But the interesting thing is it is a Saturn ruled degree. So this commitment to future relationships is directly connected energetically to the new spiritual timeline you are owning inside yourself. So you're owning this timeline by committing to this person or that situation or a relationship to the future. I'm going to commit to a positive relationship to the future. I'm going to commit to an optimistic relationship to the future. I'm going to commit to me being a Renaissance person in the future. That commitment to the future is also the commitment to a new spiritual timeline in yourself. Mars at 5 at that moment saying you got to, interesting because it's a Mercury ruled degree, you got to cut out the negative thinking in order to pull this off. So Mars saying quit thinking negative. And then later on that day, Mercury then goes passes the sun as it always does. That was a Cazimi moment I just described in the last during this day. And Mercury will square Pluto at 27 degrees. So what that ultimately means is whatever this marriage is, whatever this union is, somebody in the world doesn't like it. and that's going to be okay. The moon in Capricorn means we feel that this will lead to a power shift. And in 24 hours, the moon will cross Pluto, which means you will emotionally be able to process from that commitment that it's going to cause a little bit of a ruckus. The school board's not going to like it, or the HMA is not going to like it, or your local congressman's not going to like it. But at the end of the day, that's the whole point. Declaration of Independence, Pluto at 27 degrees. All right, friends, that is our planets in transit segment. I'm very excited. We're 2 minutes to the top of the hour. I am running like clockwork today. Now let's move on to our tea time. Go steep yourself some tea, and let's have our weekly tea time. All righty, here we are. We are back, and this is the tea time segment, which, by the way, is the segment that I go into the depths of everyone's astrology and what it's going to mean for everyone, all 12 signs. This is definitely the part that you want to get your crayons on your pencils out and take some notes. I'm just looking for my tea time notes, as a matter of fact. Here we go. And so today, in our tea time segment, I'm going to talk about 4 different things for all 12 signs. And the 4 things I'm going to talk about, first, the most important thing for all 12 signs, I'll talk about what the sun and the new moon solar eclipse is going to mean for you. So that sun moon conjunction on Saturday, what it's going to mean for you. Where are you writing a new narrative? Where are you putting into a new story for the future? Where are you creating new story, which is going to be eventually history? Remember, new story becomes history. So what is going to be your new story? Where's that going to be focused on in your life? And remember, the way it works in astrology is if you just create a new story in that part of your life, it will bleed into the other parts of your life. Okay. So if I don't mention your career and I say, create a new story with your health, then I guarantee you creating that new story with your health will be what leads to the career. So there's sort of a hierarchy in consciousness for all the signs based on where the planets are and the sun, and the moon are. So be conscientious of doing that one first, and then moving forward. Then I will talk about, that's where you create the new story. Then I'll talk about where it is you are making a commitment to release deceit, or to release relationships that are toxic. So where are you releasing toxic relationships, and for the purpose of what? So it's really the sun opposing the north node. So when the sun hits the south node, it opposes the north node. I'll be talking about how you're leaving certain things with the sun in the high degrees of Libra for the purpose of championing, right? It's Mercury retrograde, the things that you want to do, or the action plan that you want to create. Then, because I missed last week and I didn't get a chance to talk about this, I'll be telling you for all 12 signs where Black Moon Lilith is having fears come up in your life, where you can expect irrational fear or past life trauma to bubble up from your consciousness. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, I'll speak to each of the 12 signs and talk about what Pluto direct means for you. Pluto direct went last week, but again, I wasn't here last week, so I didn't get to speak on this. So I'm catching up here. Perhaps it was perfect timing in the universe and the cosmos, but where conflict may begin, and I'm giving you a permission slip here. I'm writing a hall pass that it is okay to create some tension in that area. It will take tension for things to happen. Attention, right? And tension. Now, I'm not saying conflict. I'm not saying violence. I'm not saying war. None of that. That is all old school Earth. Okay. Age of Pisces sort of thinking. Let's think age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius is tension. Age of Pisces is warfare. Okay. So just to be clear. And if you're not clear on sun versus rising sign, listen to your sun sign as the first thing you need to do, and listen to your rising sign as the second thing you need to do. If you want to listen to your moon sign, that's where you must emotionally transform your emotional perspective. All righty. And I'm going to take a sip of tea. You're welcome, April. Starting with the Aries. Aries, being the purebreds of the zodiac, they are literally creating a new vision for long-term partnerships and marriage. This is a huge thing for you, Aries, because you've been changing a lot. You're not the same hero you used to be. You've already got all the old fight out of you. So your relationships now have to be a reflection of where you're heading now with your new character. With the North Node in your sign, you are being called to stand up and be that person you were born to be. I do think that Arises are the first ones to sort of take action. You're the first one that'll be released for us to unite the light. You're the first one that'll move forward with the creation of peace on earth. So you have to make sure you're aligned with the right people. And at the same time that you let go of the toxic relationships. And that includes Aries if you're the toxic one. Okay. So if you're the toxic one, stand up and stand down. Okay. That didn't make sense, but I mean, stand up for yourself and where you're going, stand down in the conflict to the relationship. Now, when the sun and Mercury, when the sun opposes the North Node, you are going to be making some sort of commitment either to your relationship, to your future, relationship to an organization. And this is for the purpose of you becoming who you're meant to be. That North Node in Aries, you're meant to be this person. And basically what the planets are saying is that the wrong relationships will prevent you from being the person you were meant to be. So it's very important to stay on that path. With Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, you're facing fears around health and stress. And fear may be causing stress in your body. So be conscientious of stress. I know you are a stress maker, probably the biggest stress maker on the planet. But really, if you can channel that into self-nurturing and letting go of the stress, I do believe with Black Moon Lilith that you're in a place where it will turn into sickness and disease faster than it ever has been before with Black Moon Lilith in Virgo right now for you. So you're very sick prone. Anytime you get sick right now, it's because there's buried trauma or fear that you're not addressing. Pluto direct for you, Aries, means that you are now going to create conflict and tension when it comes to your career and legacy. And that tension may be because you are a trendsetter, because you raise the mark. It may not be because you turn around and argue with someone. In fact, I don't think that's the way to go. I say steal the football, be the innovator, show the world how it's done. That's plenty tension. Everyone behind you is now nervous that they can't keep up. That's probably the tension. But career, legacy, or for those who are at a different spectrum of their life, this could also be your retirement planning and moving forward with retirement planning. Might have to create some tension by putting money down on that retirement home. All righty. And I'm going to try to do liquids between these. I'm learning slowly, but learning. Taurus. Tauruses now are creating a new philosophy about their lifestyle and the way they perform. So this is a new relationship to your lifestyle. And I'm talking to myself here. So that means that it's time to have a new relationship to life. You want to definitely pace yourself, Taurus. You want to definitely cut off the things that are draining you in your certain life. That's part of what's happening as well. It's now time to really become super balanced in your lifestyle. Balance is the key for lifestyles for Taurus. Things must be in balance. That means equal life, work, play, etc., education as well as teaching, etc. But this eclipse is a new philosophy literally on life and on the way to live life. And that might be health, that might be work, that might be pleasure, that might be vacation, the whole 9 yards. Now, when the sun opposes the North Node later in the week on Wednesday, you will probably leave a certain bad lifestyle habit or a poor lifestyle habit. Poor meaning it's making you poor, okay? It's holding you back so that you can get on the path of your destiny. So you will not get on the path of your destiny, Taurus, unless you leave the lifestyle that is dysfunctional or holding you back. There's no room for, there's no negotiation there, unfortunately. And I'm talking to myself here because I do watch these myself later. Black Moon Lilith does mean that Tauruses are facing fears around loving themselves, around their heart getting what their heart wants, fear of their inner child not being happy. If you're a single Taurus, you might be facing fears that you'll never find the one that you love. Those fears must be released, Taurus, if you intend to actually find that love, because fear will get in the way of true love and in the way of creativity. And with Pluto direct, it now means that it's time for Tauruses to get on the path of their life purpose. And let me tell you, I've always known my life purpose from a very young age, but I haven't always been able to get on the path of it. I kept waiting. And interestingly enough, if you watch Chris Reck of Middle Pond Tarot, he's been telling Tauruses to quit hanging around and lollygagging and to get a move on, that he just sees us waiting for something. I think that's the Pluto retrograde, Pluto direct. So I identify with it. It's time to move forward with your life purpose. Taurus, the time is now. The world will tell you how much of when and how. So you just start pushing the way you do. Geminis. Geminis, now that new moon solar eclipse is personal dreams. And that means that it is now time for you to have a new belief about what your personal dreams are, Gemini. It's time to fall in love with love. It's time to fall in love with your dreams. It's time to tell the world, is this a happy ending? Is this going to be fun? Are you going to have enjoyment? Are you going to create something we've never seen before? It's time to write that story of what will bring you happiness and joy. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing Geminis cheer up a little bit. Y'all have been a little mopey in the last year or so, just from my own observations of my Taurus friends and family. Now, when the sun crosses the south node in the middle of the week, you will have to step away from some sort of heartache. So you will have to let the one that got away go. You'll have to let go of the project you weren't able, wherever your heart failed, whatever the one that got away, the child that, ended up going with the other parent in the divorce, wherever that heartbreak is, you have to let that heartbreak go. You have to. Otherwise, you will not become the person in society you want to be. That's the North Node in Aries. So you must let go of heartache so that you can embrace who you're meant to be in the world. Black Moon Lilith in Virgo means that you'll be facing fears around feelings with yourself. So if you're afraid of always feeling depressed forever, or you're afraid the feelings won't end, or you're afraid the feelings from childhood will cause you to be an addict, whatever your fears are about your feelings, these fears now must be faced. And they are preventing you from really thriving and certainly preventing your career from taking off. And Pluto direct means that it is now time to follow through with personal boundaries and to draw the line. So it's time for Geminis to change their life. I know a lot of Geminis who are saying, well, I plan on, cleaning out the garage, or I plan on moving to a new house, or I plan on getting married, or I plan on having kids. Time's up, Gemini. It's now time. So whatever you're afraid of doing, do it. It's now time to transform your life. Don't miss that bus. You'll be unhappy if you do. Cancers. Cancers are now, with the solar eclipse, creating a new philosophy or belief about their emotional faith. So having emotional faith, and this is a huge one. Cancers worry about feeling bad, and because they worry about feeling bad, they end up spiraling down and not really ending up feeling good. And really, you need a new belief about how you're going to hold emotional faith, that you're going to have faith in feeling good in the future, to write a new story about your home or a family, or a new story about your emotional security. That could be emotional faith in the stock market, emotional faith in your finances, emotional faith in your retirement fund. But it's emotional faith. It's now time to subscribe to a story where you feel and you have faith in the future. Now, you will have to let go of certain hurt emotions. You'll have to let go of old childhood stories about how your family wasn't there for you, how you were there for them and they weren't there for you. You can't hold on to those things. Oh, it's interesting. My watch just had something. I must have said something that sounded like Sirius because Siri came on. So you have to let go of those old emotional pains in order for you to live the career and the legacy that you want. What the planets are saying is you have two options: stay in the pain or do what you've come here to do. Those are your two options with the nodes. Black Moon Lilith in Virgo says that you will have to face fears about the way you think about yourself. This could be a fear of being crazy, a fear of having mental disorders, a fear of depression, a fear of ADD, a fear of falling into the worst attitude and staying bitter for the rest of your life. Fear around thoughts, basically, is what has to be faced. And with Pluto direct, Cancer, it is now time to wrap up your issues with long-term relationships. I don't know one Cancer. I can't think of one Cancer that is still not processing, that is every Cancer I know, let's put this way, that was a double negative. Every Cancer I know is still processing some relationship, like whether it's a first marriage or the toxic one or the narcissist or whatever. And what Pluto is saying is like, cut those cords, Cancer. It is over. You'll never move on to the relationships you want if you're holding on even by a thread to those old relationships. It is moot. It doesn't matter. And they're probably going to be somewhere else in the re-evolution anyway. So it's like, it's a whole new day, right? It's sort of like if you fall in love with someone in World War II, it doesn't matter who you dated in high school. Once World War II happened, it's all about that World War II person. It's not about the high school love. So you got to cut those cords, Cancer. Leos, it's now time to surrender to a philosophy about your brilliant ideas, a belief about your strategy. It's time to plant the seeds of a new strategy, a new idea, an innovation, a plan, a master communication, a master message, for instance, a master analysis. Maybe you're writing a computer program. Maybe you're writing a book. Maybe you're giving a speech. Maybe you're doing a lecture on something important. But whatever, it's a TED Talk or something like that. But it's now time to believe in your brilliant ideas. Time to believe in all your good ideas right now. Those good ideas are a big part of how you will relate to the future. The Leos will be very persuasive with their ideas in the future. Now, this means you must let go of your bad ideas. You must let go of your bad ideas. Okay, Rachel says, take a drink. You must also let go of any negative press, any negative opinions of you. You can't hold on to the bad comment you got on your website. You can't hold on to what so-and-so said at that party. You have to let go of negative thinking or strategies that failed so that you can live your life purpose ultimately. And that's what the North Node in Aries is, that Leos are being now pulled into their life purpose. Leos are being called to their life purpose for the first time since 2005. February 9th, 2005 was the last time, and this goes for Leo risings as well, which is when I started Soul Garden, my first brand, 2005. Black Moon Lilith means that you have to face fears around your self-worth. You can no longer fall into issues of I'm not good enough. I don't have enough money. Nobody cares about me. My family never cared about me. All those fears and trauma around your worthiness have got to be faced, because you're not going to be very convincing and compelling in your life purpose if you're not feeling like you are worth it. So you will be facing fears. Again, the last time you faced fears around your worth was December 7th, 2014, basically. Now, Pluto direct says that it is now time to get your life purpose, your lifestyle in order. So Leos have gone back and forth with lifestyle. They fall in and fall out of good habits. Leo risings are the same way. So you're at a point now where it's time to build the lifestyle that will harness and host the success. So it is time to create a lifestyle. You may create conflict by getting into a renegotiation with your landlord. You might create a conflict by cutting off certain vendors. You might get into conflicts because you have to say no to racquetball on the weekends because it's just too much. So there will be conflict that comes up from generating this new lifestyle. It could cause some issues, particularly with your mindset and whatnot, as the sun squares Pluto later on next week. But it is now time to get your lifestyle in order, to finish that job and to get really succinct with a good life to yourself. Virgos are building a new philosophy about capital abundance. So this is your potential to manifest wealth, for you to manifest something that ultimately is self-perpetuating. This would be a secondary income, for instance, or what do you call that? An income that always works on its own while you're asleep. I can't remember the name of it now. Residual income. So it is now time to have a new belief about wealth, a new belief about what you want to manifest, a new philosophy of what you're creating with your life. This is what you are manifesting and what you are generating in life, basically. This solar eclipse is kickstarting in a big way your business, your product, your abundance, your wealth. And that could be the purchase of property. That could be the sales of property, but it's now a new philosophy about capital abundance. Now, you must let go of bad investments of not just money, but also time. You must divorce yourself from toxic investments of time and energy. If it's not paying off now, it's not gonna. And what your planets say is, if you don't cut, every time I do that, Siri says something. If you don't cut the bad investments, you won't be able to transform your life in the place you want to transform. You also won't be able to be as close to people as you want to be close to. You also won't be able to align with the appropriate people if you are tied to the poor investment. So when the sun crosses the South Node on Wednesday, cut the bad investments. Black Moon Lilith is in your sign, Virgo, for the first time, like I said, since December 7th, 2014. So you are facing fears about who you are. You're facing fears about failure. You're facing fears about your ability to act, your ability to defend yourself. You're facing fears around your strength. You're facing fears about your character and the way you'll be labeled or the way you'll be received. So you could say that Virgo is having basically stage fright and facing all their fears around their ability to perform or really put themselves out there. And of course, if you go on stage afraid, we're not going to see the brightest version of you. So it is important to face those fears. Now, with Pluto direct at 27 degrees, it's now time to move forward with your personal dreams. You may create conflict with someone that you love very deeply. It may be a child. There may be conflicts with a creative partner. There may be conflicts with, the studio that's signing your book or the agency that's signing your script. There might be conflict from moving forward with your personal dreams. These conflicts might also tie into money. And so there might be money conflicts that happen, but you do need to move forward now with whatever that is and recognize at the same time that if that person you've been holding out for hasn't come around, they probably are not going to. So, normally I'm all about, hold on and we'll see. Now I'm like, we got stuff to do. Pluto's moving into Aquarius. That ship has sailed. So Virgos are another sign that tend to hold on a little too long to the one that got away. And I think they have displaced creativity where they invest in that dream instead of investing in the reality. So be conscious of that. Libras. Everyone's talking to me about my voice. Libras. Happy birthday, Libra. Boy, you're having one hell of a year. Let me tell you. With this eclipse season and the South Node in your sign. First of all, it's time for a new story about who you are. You are not the Libra we knew just 2 weeks ago. You are not the Libra that grew up in your house as a kid. You are not the Libra in your first marriage. We've never seen this version of you before. Maybe you've held it back and never allowed yourself to express it before. Maybe you tried to and you were shut down by the people around you. Maybe you were too afraid. Maybe your ego is too caught up in trying to help others instead of helping yourself. Whatever the story is, that's his story now. It's now time to create the new story of who you are. I don't think, looking at the planets, that we've seen the best that Libras can be in this lifetime. I don't care who you are as a Libra. The planets have sort of held you back in many different ways. Pluto and Capricorn being one of the biggest ones, by the way, we'll speak to that. So it's now time to cast that vision for this Libra that you want to be, this character that we want to see. And it probably means that you've got to let go of ego attachments. The sun crossing the South Node on Wednesday means you got to let go of trying to save that person that won't save themselves. You got to let go of insisting on you being first. Your ego is insisting. The reason why your ego doubles down is because you actually give too much in so many other places in your life. And because you give too much, then your ego gets stubborn about things that don't really matter. So you've got to let go of the things that don't really matter and instead to move into the relationships that do work. What the astrology is saying is if you don't swallow your pride and your ego, you won't have the relationship you want. And that could be a relationship to the bank for a loan. That could be a relationship to a person, a man or a woman. That could be a relationship to a business, a relationship to a future. Your relationships are held back because your ego is holding on. Now, Black Moon, Lilith, and Virgo for you is pretty tough, Libra, because you are facing your deepest fears for the next 8+ months, your deepest fears. And this will mean that they may seem to be haunting you. So Libras are going to be haunted by some fears, I think. The only way to respond to that is with love and self-care and dedication to yourself. That will be what rises out of those ashes. You haven't had fear like this since, again, December 7th, 2014 was the last time you faced fears like this. It lasts for 9 months at a time. So this fear can be in any spectrum: fear of divorce, fear of abandonment, fear of loss, fear of death. It's a sort of a free spot. So it can be fear of anything, but it's probably your karmic fears, which means like it's your irrational fears, like you're afraid of water or you're afraid of spiders, or you're afraid of, flying, or you're afraid of being on a ship, maybe because you went down with the Titanic. So it's karmic fears that you're facing. And those fears basically will hold you back from your success if you don't face those fears. Now, Pluto direct means it's now time to move forward to build emotional faith. Okay. So you have to draw the hard lines to have emotional faith. And this is where the sun is going to square. This may be that you have to, shut a door to a family member because they're toxic. It may mean that you have to relocate to an area of the world that is less toxic, or at least more supportive and loving. It does mean that you might piss off your family because they're not going to be happy with what you're doing, and they're not going to approve of what you're doing. But too bad, says the planets. Again, maybe your ego that I was talking about, letting go of ego, maybe your ego is like tied up trying to convince your father that you were right. And that fight is draining you of your batteries and keeping you from being the person you're meant to be. So releasing ego issues that are particularly tied to emotional security, home, family security, etc. Scorpios now they are now creating a new story about their closeness to heaven. So this is a new story about your karmic journey, about your path, about who you're here to be. This is a new story about whether or not you're psychic. This is a new story about whether or not you're one of the chosen ones, whether or not you're meant to ascend, a new story about who you were in a past life. It's a spiritual news story about how close you are to God in heaven. For you to move forward, you've got to actually close the door on certain karma, close the door on subconscious triggers, close the door on subconscious sabotage. If you don't end that invisible fight with yourself, you will not build the lifestyle you want. You will not have the job you want. You will not have the life you want. So you must cut the cord, the karmic cords, or the fear in order to get to the life that you want. Black Moon Lilith in Virgo says you're going to face fears about friendship. You're going to face fears about not belonging, facing fears that you don't fit in anywhere, facing fears that you can't find your tribe, facing fears that no one will really recognize you for what you're meant to do, facing fears around failure in society, facing fears about not being able to be there for yourself. Okay. So facing fears around social issues. And Pluto direct means it's now time to pull your head out of what and adopt the right attitude about the future. No more arguing, no more debating, move forward with what you plan, adopt the right attitude for success. This may cause some conflict with having faith that your mind will question whether or not you can do that. For instance, your mind may question whether or not it's possible, but you got to draw some hard boundaries and drill down on that attitude for the plans that will bring your future and your success. Sagittarius have a new philosophy with this solar eclipse for their relationship to the public. This is a new relationship to the public. You've never been this person in the public before. And this is, I think, obviously part of your calling, this relationship. Maybe you're actually going to have social media for once. Maybe you're going to, become the center of attention when you've always sort of bowed out of that attention. Maybe you're going to be a leader when you tend to always be a follower or a supporter. But it's a new story about who Sagittarius are in the public, and it's multiplied by a solar eclipse that happens tomorrow. You'll have to let go of your old reputation, maybe an old circle of friends, maybe an old circle of people for you to really pursue your personal dreams. The North Node wants Sagittarius's personal dreams to happen. So Sag, if you've always dreamed about being on stage or doing something remarkable, this is absolutely the time to do that. The Black Moon Lilith is actually going to creating fear around career, around legacy, around making the wrong career choices, fears around making the wrong decisions, fears about being a leader, fears about being strong enough and self-discipline. So fears around self-discipline, career, legacy, and for some at a certain age group, perhaps fears around retirement. Pluto direct says that it's time to move forward with your plans for money, abundance, productivity. It's time to move forward with investments. It may cause some conflict. Maybe if you're going after a settlement from a divorce or something like that, there might be conflict for going after that settlement. Maybe you have to go after someone that's wronged you in a lawsuit, but you may have to rock the boat. It may trigger issues with your reputation in society as the sun squares Pluto, but it needs to be shored up now. It's time to move forward. Capricorns are now, they have a new story or philosophy about their career, their legacy, or their retirement. So Capricorns are going to move into a new story about what they're here to do formally. They're probably going to get new business cards, or they're going to get a new office, or they're going to ultimately find a new strategy for how they want to retire. You will have to let go of, obviously, the failed businesses, the failed retirement plans, the failed business partnerships that aren't working. So you have to move away from what hasn't worked. And this is so that you can have emotional peace. You must leave behind certain things in your career if you want to have emotional peace. It could be commitments you made. Maybe you're leaving behind a commitment. Maybe you're abandoning a contract. Maybe you're opting out of an alliance so that you can have emotional peace. And that happens on Wednesday. Black Moon Lilith in Virgo says you have to face fears around believing in yourself, that you can believe in yourself and will believe in yourself and shall believe in yourself. So any fears around believing, fears around knowing enough, I don't know enough information, I'm not educated, I don't have a degree in that sort of thing, all that sort of thing must be now faced so that you have true belief in yourself and face the fears about believing. And with Pluto direct, this is the last, almost the last stroke. There's one more time Pluto's in Capricorn next year, but it's only at 29 degrees Capricorn. But it's time now to move forward with your character, who you're meant to be, the action plan you want to do. You might have been holding back on plans, maybe wondering, is it time? Am I ready? Pluto says you're ready. Do it. Move forward. It might ruffle some feathers. It'll certainly ruffle feathers with work or career issues due to the square that's going to happen next week with the Sun and Pluto. But it is time to move forward now with what your character and ego wants. And you know, the magic words to the ego is because I said so. It's because I said so. There's no other reason than because I said so. Aquariuses are having a new life purpose and a new story when it comes to their life's purpose, basically. So this is the energy of what is life about? What brings meaning in my life? I'm here for this. I'm born for that. So Aquariuses, I think, are finding their story of why they were on the planet Earth in the first place. I think Aquariuses in the solar eclipse are uncovering who they are in the age of Aquarius. Yes, the age of Aquarius is technically 100 years away. I know that, but this is the important turn right now, in my opinion. We won't make it to the age of Aquarius unless Aquariuses make the right choice right now in this life. So although, yes, the age of Aquarius is 100 years away, we'll never get there if we don't pull it off today, is my opinion. So it's time to get on the path of the story you were born to live, Aquarius, whatever that dream is, and as hokey and as weird as it is. It's going to be weird. That's who you are. Now, you've got to let go of the false life purposes. You got to let go of the false beliefs. You got to let go of the false schools of thought. You got to quit trying to fit in with what everyone else says the way it is and just let those schools of thought go so that you can really focus on your life and your logic strategy. So if you're caught up trying to please other people and trying to fit into other people's beliefs, you won't be able to pursue your own logic and your own strategy. Black Moon Lilith in Virgo says you will face fears around trusting yourself. Any fears you have about trusting yourself, with alcohol, trusting yourself, with a huge bank account and no accountant, trusting yourself to pull it off, trusting yourself to follow through, trusting yourself to not go too far. Ultimately, it's now time to trust yourself and face fears around not trusting yourself. Pluto direct in Capricorn says it's now time to move forward with whatever your relationship to God is. Aquas tend to be non-committal when it comes to God. It's almost like they're going to decide when they die what the answer is, or when they're in their hospital bed. Pluto's saying, no, you got to know what your relationship to God is right now. God's going to help you either way, but you got to quit sitting on the fence. Like, what do you believe? It's time to focus on what you believe, focus on your relationship to God. That also means to cut the cords of any karma or karmic relationship that might be in the way. There may be conflict between your life purpose and your understanding of God. So this new purpose may go against what you've been trained about God. And that might be what you're learning to do. You're going to say, I don't care what religion has told me. I'm going to move forward with my life purpose, even though it's not necessarily, it's sacrilegious or whatever. So there might be a conflict between your life purpose and your relationship to God, but you get good with God on your own terms and everything will be fine. And then finally, Pisces. Pisces are subscribing to a new story about life transformation. So I think the story is Pisces have questioned whether or not they could change their life, whether or not everything would ever change, whether or not karma would ever be on their side. I think a lot of Pisces feel like that would never happen, but it's time for a new story. The solar eclipse is going to be a huge push. You could say that Pisces are getting pushed in the pool, out of the fishbowl and into the pool. You're getting pushed into changing your life with this eclipse. I do think you will be pushed. So I think it's unavoidable, frankly. Just knowing all of the Pisces and stuff going on for Pisces right now with Saturn and Pisces, Neptune and Pisces, you'll be someone will sign you up. You'll find yourself on that train. You'll wake up and you're on that train or something like that. Now, you will have to let go of certain stubborn boundaries that you have. You refuse to do windows, or you refuse to, get married, or you refuse to, sign contracts, or whatever you refuse, or maybe you refuse to open up to things. There's certain stubborn boundaries that you have got to change in order to really find your money in abundance. So the planets are saying, if you're not making the money you want, it's because you have stubborn boundaries. It's because you are refusing to let go of toxic boundaries, or boundaries that do not serve you ultimately. And it will lead to your abundance and your ability to make better money. Black Moon Lilith in Virgo means you are going to face fears about letting yourself down, facing fears about being poor to yourself, treating yourself poorly, probably facing fears about relationships, but it's probably not going to be about marriage and partnership until you face the fears you have with yourself. So facing fears you have with yourself in order to be able to really thrive in relationships later. So whatever fears you have with yourself, fear of riding a bike, fear of running for office, fear of public speaking, it's time to face those fears and face them now. Pluto direct says it is time now for Pisces to find their role in society. This is the role, I believe, that you are meant to be in the age of Aquarius. You are cleaned out. You are karma free with Saturn, at least with yourself, basically. Neptune has exposed all your karma in your sign. So it's now time to go for it. And a lot of Pisces are kind of procrastinate. This, like, they'll get to it when they get to it. Pluto's saying, if you don't get to it, you're going to have some problems. And you're going to probably realize that your boundary issues are going to end up messing with your social reputation. So if you don't move forward with your reputation and clean up your boundaries, I think you're going to find yourself in boiling water. And that's a great way to wrap up for Pisces. All right. Thank you, Soul Healing, saying very accurate for Pisces. So glad to hear that. We're going to do a little intermission now. We're going to play the Zodiac Weather in another commercial. And when I come back, I have the stars of Dayluna, and we're going to talk about human design coming up after this. This Zodiac Weather is for Saturday, October 14th to Friday, October 20th, 2023. Looking at your weekend forecast, it's going to be a powerful weekend because we have a new moon solar eclipse on Saturday afternoon. Let's drill down. On Saturday, prior to the eclipse, it's cloudy and emotionally receptive. Step 20 means we've now reached the third chapter of the I Receive Libra transit. Your feelings may feel a little exposed and you may feel a little vulnerable. What you're feeling into is your future, and you're feeling yourself level up. Then the new moon solar eclipse apexes at step 21, which is the birth of a new philosophy about future relationships, or a new relationship to your future. And during the whole process, Mercury opposes Chiron, so you may be mindful of a time when things did not go so well. On Sunday, it's sunny and illuminated. Step 21 means that Jupiter rules this day. You are feeling the new story unfolding with a new relationship to the future, or a new chapter in a given relationship. And with the moon in Scorpio, you're probably defining the edges of your emotional boundaries with yourself. Moving on to our 5-day weekday moodcast. Over the course of the week, we now take this new philosophy about our future or future relationships, and we move to a commitment. Let's drill down. On Monday, it's sunny and rather moody. Step 22 means Uranus rules the day. Expect the unexpected, relationship surprises, twists and turns, and the universe will be revealing emotional truth with the moon in Scorpio. On Tuesday, it's sunny and rather sharp. Step 23 means Mercury rules the day. You will be able to take that philosophy for the future and boil it down to a new vision for your relationships or your relationship to the future. You're also feeling a line in the sand now. The moon will shift from the high degrees of Scorpio into early Sagittarius. On Wednesday, it's sunny and epic. Step 24 is a grandmaster step of Libra ruled by Venus. You are on this day accepting the terms of this relationship or the terms to your relationship to the future. You're also, with the sun opposing the North Node in Aries and crossing the South Node, releasing finished soul contracts with others. And with the moon in Sagittarius, you're feeling that narrative change. On Thursday, it's cloudy and godly. Step 25 has us called to our highest self. It's a Neptune-ruled degree. We are observing the spiritual fate of our relationships. The choice of what you have to do is evident. And now Mercury opposes the North Node and crosses the South Node, so you intellectually release and finish that soul contract. And then on Friday, it's sunny and anointed. Step 26 means it's ruled by Saturn on this day, and we are feeling it as well, the moon in Capricorn. This is where you will commit to a long-term relationship. The calling is clear, and Mercury and the Sun conjoin at step 26 to make your heart and mind on the same page.
It's serious joy, joy, joy.
For the best astrology guidance, you can enjoy an entire month of personalized astrology services for just $3.99. At Serious Joy, we pride ourselves on providing astrology enthusiasts with exactly what they're looking for: daily personalized inspiration that speaks directly to the heart. Sign up today, and you'll receive personalized messages straight to your phone, 7 days a week. And that's just half of it. You'll also get access to our exclusive members-only site with tons of amazing features. Experience the most accurate astrology service on the web at SeriousJoy.com.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Astro Mingle, the spiritual podcast that mingles with the talented light workers of our time to explore the mysteries of the conscious universe. Joining me tonight is a powerhouse duo of human design and personal enlightenment. Shayna Cornelius and Dana Stiles are here on a mission to empower the collective toward personal self-love, personal freedom, and radical authenticity. As the founders of Dayluna, located at daylunalife.com, Shayna and Dana specialize in the realm of self-purpose and consciousness entrepreneurship. They dive deep into spirituality, parenting, the new paradigm, and so many other modern and important spiritual topics on their Dayluna Human Design podcast, which has been downloaded over 1.5 million times. Shayna and Dana feel passionately called to help spread the complex and life-changing science of human design to a wider community in a grounded and approachable way. They have curated many different playful yet innovative offerings to support individuals who are ready to step into their highest potential by honoring their unique energy. Please, audience, send waves of love and gratitude as I welcome Step 14 Scorpio, Shayna Cornelius, and Step 25 Leo, Dana Stiles, to Astro Mingle. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming. It's such a pleasure. And I think we have a little bit of a
Yes,
hiccup.
I love it.
We'll work with the stars here. I guess the technology is burping. There's too much light work here going on between the two of us, I think. So a disclaimer if we get frozen for a moment or two. Like that.
Yeah,
There
no,
we go.
we're here.
Okay, great. Well then, awesome. Let's start off with, first of all, Dayluna is an amazing company name, I have to say. I'm curious how you came up with it. How did the two of you meet as friends? You seem like, I was saying backstage, like cosmic sisters from from Palladius or Palladian or something like that. How did you become friends and how did you start Dayluna?
Yeah, so Shane and I met in college over 15 years ago now, and we just
Wow.
happened to be in the same college, next door neighbors in our dorm rooms. And in college, we just completely connected in a way that none of our other friends did. And so we stayed friends after college. We went out into the world and we got regular jobs in the corporate field and we worked our way up the corporate ladder. And our life kind of brought us in sort of different paths, but we always stayed so connected. And when we reached just before our Saturn return, we had this kind of like quarter life crisis where we had been working our corporate jobs for some time. And it was just this feeling of like, this cannot be it for us. I don't feel like I get to be my full self. I'm exhausted. I feel like I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I followed all of the rules. Why do I feel hollow? Why do I feel like that something is missing on like a deep soul level? And so we would call each other at night crying and soul searching and reading books together and trying to just figure out if this isn't it, then what is it? Where are we supposed to be? What are we supposed to be doing? So together as besties, we got into meditation and yoga and astrology, and we were just reading as much spiritual information as we could to try to find answers. And in that deep dive, soul search, kind of rock bottom moment together, we discovered human design. And when we discovered our human design, we're the same of the 5 energy types. We're projectors. And out of the 12 were both 2 4s. So immediately it just clicked why we always kind of saw the world in the same way, why we were having the same hiccups with our corporate jobs, why we felt so completely drained and exhausted. And that moment of discovering our human designs and that we had the same one was such a huge catalyst in our life. We just decided as besties, we're going to experiment with human design and we're really going to see what happens when we follow our design. And that kind of led us to teach and creating Dayluna.
Awesome. And we had a little burp there, but I got most of it there at the end. Amazing. And that's interesting because, Scorpio, one being a Scorpio, one being a Leo, it's like that's one of the interesting things about human design I've noticed we'll talk about is that it has a lot of qualities in it that I do not find in astrology. And so the idea that, a Scorpio and a Leo, not at all identical, but for you to be besties and have so much in common and to come through the human design that to understand that commonality, that's really powerful. Is there a story behind where Dayluna came from as a brand name?
Yeah, so Dayluna was actually a channeled name that Dana channeled. She also channeled our logo, and it really is representing the polarity within the feminine and the masculine, like day and then a moon, like Luna. So when you see the sky during the day and you see a moon, that's a Dayluna. And we just like that polar everything within our lives and within our business, everything that we create. Polarity is so important to have balance. And so it just felt like, okay, Dayluna, that's what it is. And we went with it. Everything, honestly, in our business, in how we hire people and how we work with people, in how we make decisions, it really is all from a place of our human design and honoring our unique energy, honoring what comes up, and really trusting ourselves. And so when we had this moment of like, okay, this isn't it, who are we really? Human design came along, and it was the first modality that we really resonated with in an action-oriented way. Like, it tells you, here's how you have conversations with people. Here's how you interact with your work and your kids and your partner. Here's how you make decisions. And that's a huge thing, because if you have a more rare decision-making process, then you're operating likely from a way that somebody else has told you how to make decisions, but not really from a place of accessing your own truth. So for me, that was huge. And we decided, okay, for 1 month, we are going to make every decision with this specific practice, and we are going to have every interaction be in this specific way. And literally, it sounds too good to be true, but within 1 month, everything in our life changed. We had so many invitations, so many opportunities to make this shift in our career a lot easier and less scary. And so we did. And to this day, everything that we've done has been using human design, but of course also teaching human design, which has been really just such an honor to do.
That's terrific. I see now where we have a comment, like our company is Serious Joy for the same reason. It's sort of like the night and day of consciousness in a certain way. So I completely, that's a grounded way of going about it. We also try to use astrology in our own work and our own career as well. So I completely am fans of that. What you're saying basically is that you literally practice what you preach. And you are walking evidence of its success. I mean, the energy off your site is just amazing, I got to tell you. And I don't say that very often. It's just clean. It's so all unified. It feels so balanced and beautiful. We'll give your URL out a few times tonight. I think a lot of my audience, I mean, having been friends with these people watching me now for many years, it's like human design is sort of cropped up for us as astrology, purebred astrology people. Like, it's used to be, what's your sign? Now people are also like, what's your human design? I'm getting that in parties now. So it's just like, it's clearly rising up in the consciousness. And let's just assume that people watching this show know absolutely nothing about it. For just to kind of do 100-foot, perspective up, what is human design? Like, can you explain what it's composed of? I know it's astrology, but it's also other components that come into it, right?
Yes, definitely. So human design is a system that was actually downloaded by a man named Ra Aruhu in the late 80s, in 1987. And he connected in with this entity that he calls the voice. And he was able to kind of download and channel how all of these different ancient systems come together to create this one super system. So those ancient modalities are Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, and the Kabbalah tree of life. It's really showing you how those four things overlay on top of each other and feed into one another. So we have the astrology wheel, and then we put the 64 I Ching hexagram gates around those 12 zodiac signs. And then it brings that cosmic blueprint into our body. It shows us where those gates are in our energy center. And because of that, how the energy is flowing or not in our body. And then that tells us a lot about our aura, our energetic body, and how our aura is designed to exchange energy and fuel off of or create energy in our life. So it's really cool because it's taking these esoteric ideas and characteristics and qualities and really filtering them into our physical energetic form. Both. Human design is really this blueprint of showing you how you're unique and what your unique gifts are and qualities are, and maybe even challenges that you're here to really navigate in this lifetime. But it's also showing you, with all of that in mind, how you navigate life as the authority of your own life. What is your operating system? How does your internal GPS work? And so it's less predictive than astrology because it's really showing you this is how you navigate the unknowns of life in pure authenticity with your soul's plan. And you don't need to know what's going to happen in the future, as long as in this moment you are meeting it with this knowledge of self and using your energy correctly, you're going to navigate this in alignment. So it's kind of like the roadmap, and also giving you sort of the owner's manual of what kind of energetic vehicle or car you're driving, because we're all different. We're all unique. So let's say your energetic vehicle is a diesel and you're trying to put gas in, or maybe you're a hybrid and you've been trying to put diesel gas in. We have these moments of, burnout and deep misalignment that gets us so far away from our gifts. But when we're operating our energy correctly, we naturally start to see the highest expression of all of our gifts play out in our life. We magnetize the people, the opportunities, the situations that are going to be right for us as unique individuals. So it has all of these ancient modalities we've woven in there. But what's really spectacular about human design is all of these ancient sciences, if you will, sciences, really correlate with our biogenetics, with modern quantum physics. So there's kind of this spirit science lens that you can look at human design through. And the founder of human design that channeled all of this information, he had a lot of scientific findings about how consciousness travels through the universe via neutrinos, which are a subatomic particle. He downloaded this information, and about 10 years later, science started to prove this and kind of quantify this in a more scientific way. So it's such a deeply, fascinatingly complex system that we'll be studying our entire lives. But what's really cool is you can kind of shortcut by just knowing your strategy and authority, that navigation system. And if you're practicing that and living in accordance with your unique energetic body, all of the rest of the highest expression just kind of naturally comes into light. Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there.
A lot.
You're dense. Your consciousness is wonderfully dense, just like the human design program, from what I've been seeing. Does Ra ever speak to why it is Western versus Vedic? I'm just curious why he chose that different school of astrology.
Yeah, he only says that this is what was shown to him. And he's so humble he's passed away now, but when you do hear him or read quotes of him talking about human design, he's like, I did not create this system. I was shown this system, and he was shown it with Western astrology. That's kind of the origin. Now there are companies that have computers that can generate your chart using Vedic or sidereal, but it really changes your design. And we recommend people studying with Western astrology because that is the origin of human design. But I definitely think it's interesting if you feel the call to explore and to see, okay, what if I plug in my information in this sidereal astrology database? What happens? We love for people to explore with that, because in the end, everyone is their own authority about what resonates with them and what really feels meaningful and true to them.
Very interesting. And it speaks to, I won't go into my theories about Vedic versus Western, but I like that affirmation. Did he ever identify who or what the voice was, or he just kept it as the voice?
The voice, consciousness energy that communicated all this very complex system to him. So when you think about how many people there are on the planet and how much room there is for diversity within all of us, that's how complex human design is. It gets into literally every single variation of different gifts that you can have, or your diet, or your environment, or your mindset, the way that you're seeing the world and you're meant to see the world. So the point of human design is to say, okay, yes, this is complex, but here's this language for everything that you've ever felt. And it makes it okay to be unique. It makes it okay to be different, because there isn't that pressure anymore of, oh, well, this worked for my mom, so I should try it like this, or this worked for my boss and they're really successful, so I need to hustle and be more like them. Instead, you get to take your power back and say, okay, now that I've had this spoken to me, or I've read this about myself, let me experiment with it. Let me try it. And there's this deep resonance that happens with experimenting with human design that's undeniable. We've done thousands and thousands of readings at this point, and like I feel like the case studies alone, just from what we've seen, it's just undeniably helpful, and it creates a lot more liberation and empowerment of like, okay, whatever comes my way, I know how to navigate it, because I'm no longer comparing or judging myself based off of my conditioning or the people that I've seen around me.
It's fascinating. I almost wonder, I mean, I've always been looking for the mystical links between the different spiritual sciences, numerology, astrology. So I've always sort of had this feeling like almost like the Tower of Babel, that it maybe was once all one thing and it got separated so that we couldn't understand ourselves. So I think his work is phenomenally fascinating in that regard, especially the systems that he chose. And one thing I've noticed, I mean, astrology does not speak to, and we'll get onto this, but like astrology doesn't speak really well to the subconscious at all. It doesn't speak to your aura or the energy of your aura. There's so many facets that I find in human design that we simply just don't have from just the mere science of astrology alone, particularly the laws of attraction and how energy works. It's to me extremely fascinating. So how is it? Do you know the process? I know we all rely on software. Me too. I couldn't calculate a chart by hand by myself, by the way. I mean, I fully admit that. Like, I'm not old school astrologer. I was born with software. So you end up running a chart, which is a body graph. That's what it's called, right? So, and it looks like a little shape of a human being, and it has different symbols in it. How is a body graph calculated? Do you have any idea of some of the math behind that, or?
Yes, totally. So when you are generating your chart, all you need to put in is your birthday, just like your natal astrology. But the human design software then generates also your design date, which is approximately 3 months before you're born. So it's actually the snapshot of the night sky, those 2 moments, the moment that you were born, but also approximately 3 months before you're born.
88 days.
So those 2 times are your personality and your design, or your conscious energy and your unconscious energy. And we are all both. So human design is this binary system. Everything in human design has a this and a that, a highest expression, a lowest expression, an outward and inward. And also we all have the personality side of us, who we think we are, who we identify as, who our mind can see ourselves as. And that's the information, basically your astrology chart from the moment you're born. And then we all have our design side, or unconscious side. And that's the energy from the moment that approximately 3 months before. So we are each like this mystical union of the 2 sides of ourselves as one. And those 2 sides of ourselves then come in our body chart. So there's another part of human design, instead of the body graph, that you might be really interested in looking at, is called the rave mandala. And that will show you astrological wheel, 64 gates, and then all to your body graph. So you're not seeing that on your body graph. You're just seeing how all of that energy then comes into your physical body and where it lives in your physical body. You can also look at the rave mandala and see the bigger pictures coming together. So it's really fascinating, because each of us as a human body, we're like this snapshot in time of that energy, but the 2 energies together. So learning to embrace our unconscious gifts is crucial. And having this information is wild. There's not very many other systems that can show you. You have this unconscious. And the thing about hearing it is anything that's unconscious in our design, we feel it so much We just weren't aware mentally. So the second you hear it, it does resonate. Almost like this unlocking. Like the first time I heard all of my unconscious energies, I felt like cells activating, just this moment of remembrance and of resonance. So having that information is crucial. It's so beautiful, so profound, and so special. And it really is, some people like to look at, well, on one side, if I only had these energies, I would be a different energy type. Or if I only had the other side, I would be this. But the truth is, you are this binary. You are a walking polarity. All of us are, because that's the plane that in this 3D realm. We're here to be this, and that. And even in our personality traits, all of us have this polarization. For example, Shayna and I both are 2-4 profiles. And what that means is, on one hand, we are very hermit energy of not wanting to see anyone, not wanting to socialize. And on the other hand, we're this 4 energy of being super social, super outgoing, super conversational. And I've always felt like, which one am I? Am I this hermit person, or am I this social person? And the truth is, I'm both. And accepting those two sides of ourselves, accepting that polarity, is what brings us the most harmony, the most balance, and the most whole picture of ourselves as an integrated whole.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious about that relationship. So does Robert communicate that as like the design date is like the soul? Is that our soul, and then the other date is our kind of incarnation? Is it that simple?
Yeah, so he communicates it as your design date is when the consciousness is forming in the womb. So your consciousness is being imprinted when you're in the womb 3 months before you're born. And then when you're born, you're being imprinted like when you exit your mother's womb by all of the neutrinos that are coming in and being filtered by the stars. They're then picking up some information from the planets and depositing a little bit of information into your being as they pass through you. So this was one of those scientific revelations that we've had more recently after Ra channeled this from the voice, was that neutrinos are passing through everything all the time, but it was believed that they just were nothing, that received and gave no information. But the voice told Ra, no, neutrinos are passing through everything all the time. They're picking up a little bit of matter and they're depositing a little bit of matter all the time, like everywhere, all the time. And so them passing through these massive planets, picking up this information. And then when your consciousness comes in, imprinting that. And then the moment that you're born, imprinting that, because you're not being filtered by your mother's womb anymore. So you then have this combination, like Dana was saying, this polarity of your personality and your design, and they connect to then show you your overall aura, your overall body graph. And that tell you how your energy operates, mental place and needing to talk it out. Do you operate more with having high and low emotions and needing to come to a more emotional neutral place? So it's showing you the mechanics of your energy, so then you can understand it and work with it versus working against it, which a lot of us tend to do, where we feel like we're swimming upstream and like, why isn't anything working? You're creating this frustrated energy within your body. And electromagnetically, if you can tune into how it wants to operate, get rid of that friction or that frustration, then things operate more smoothly. You increase, you attract the right opportunities, things like people, things like that to your life, for you to have more ease, more peace, more satisfaction, more success in your life.
It makes total sense. I mean, and I aim for that in astrology too, just understanding myself. And, we see success in the world and we tend to like study Oprah, study all these people who had phenomenal success and try to mimic, what they did. And we try to force, square pegs into round holes all the time. And it's like, if you can end that struggle with yourself, you free so much energy of just the resistance that you have with yourself, because you're trying things it's not really feeling like it's synchronizing. How do you rationalize the design date in your own understanding of yourself? Does it come across as like your inner self, or like your subconscious motive, or like a hidden motive? Like, I'm wondering, because I haven't really lived my human design yet to kind of feel in my own life the difference between the design date and what's the other date? The personality date? Is that right?
Personality date. So your design, when you first hear your design, it can feel like, oh, I've always felt that, but I didn't realize that that was important or special or different or needed. Whereas when you hear your personality gates, it feels like, yeah, that's me. And so
Okay.
it's just unlocking that happens. But then once that happens, it feels like both are you. Like it's almost like once you know, you can't go back. And so
Totally.
you know better and you do better, right? So when you hear this information, it has that unlocking for your design side, but then it's not like this challenging thing that you need to, go and work on and uncover. It's almost as if that's always been me. It's this remembering that happens that then you just naturally are honoring. And you might have been honoring those design gate qualities already, but just not having awareness of like, this is important. This is unique. This is special. You might have just felt like everyone does this. This is just like not anything special to look at. But when you really do, and you lean into them along with your personality gates, because you are both, that's where the magic happens. So it's really important to use all of your gifts in everything you do, whether that's in your work or in your family life, doesn't matter. Like Dana said, there's the low expression for all of these gates, personality or design. There's a high expression. And then there's the outward, how you're helping other people with this gift. And then the inward, how you're working with this internally to grow and change and evolve. So there's all those sides happening all the time. And the awareness of knowing what they are, that's really the liberation that happens. That's the empowerment of, okay, I've been in the lowest expression, or I've been only using this internally. It's time to use this outwardly. It's time to grow. And there's action steps for each one of how to come into the highest expression.
It sounds almost like it's the design date is almost like a root in what I call a root intention, or like a subconscious motive that you have, that you may or may not be aware of that subconscious motive, something that you're subconsciously trying to fulfill, but unaware that you're trying to fulfill it, which is why we end up, going home with the wrong person or something like that. It's like, because there's a design gate sort of motive there that I wasn't paying attention to. Does one last question with this, and we'll move on, because I'm real fascinated by this duality. Does Ra ever speak to, is the design gates, does he speak to past lives? Is there reincarnation in the study of human design?
Yeah, there is. And this is less spoken about, but the design gates are really where your inherited genetic qualities lie in your chart. And also they are qualities that you have more than likely mastered in past lives. So they are actually things that are familiar to you with past lives. Whereas your personality gates are kind of new things, like your new challenge or your new thing that you're focused on. So there's both the family ancestral connection to our design gates and also the past life connection to it. But this is something that's very esoteric. It's not spoken about very much, but we have heard that mentioned by Ra before.
Yeah. And one of the things just a takeaway of observation is that the fact that there's not a lot of prediction in human design sort of forces you to where a lot of yogis and ancient masters have always spoken to, that the present is what's most important, and mastering the present is what's most important. And it seems like HD really empowers you to own the present and live in the present, which is where our power really is, especially as Americans. We're always looking to the future and what's next. Is there any interaction with, so does Ra speak to any current interaction with neutrinos? Like, am I being bombarded with neutrinos now? Do you have like like transits are in astrology where there's certain things being highlighted and unhighlighted by the movement of the planets and the neutrino flow?
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, human design is empowering you to be your authority now with the gifts that you have, that you were born with, that are inherent to you, right? There's that whole side of it. It's a huge side of human design. But then we all have these areas where we're open, where we don't have consistent gift there or way of connecting or consistent energy. And that's where we're receiving other people. That's conditioning from others who have that consistent. And so we are picking up all the time energy from other people, from the planets, from our environment. So when the planets are in a transit and the neutrinos are then passing through these planets, we are all experiencing that gate that it's transiting through, for example, and being conditioned by that. So if we have that area or that gift open, we are going to be feeling like we have that energy in that time. Like I resonate with having a gut instinct but then the majority of my life, I don't have a gut instinct. So that's where you can feel, without this information, confusing, like, well, I resonate with all of the different things, because at some point in our life, based on the transits and the people we're around, we're all meant to feel all of the different things, but the consistent things that are reliable, that empower you, that change your life, are the things that are within your own body and your own design. And that's how you're meant to condition other people, is by letting them feel you, the things that are consistent for you that aren't consistent for them. So there is a side of human design that is predictive. And that's really where we get into like your life cycles. So your Saturn return, your Uranus opposition, your Chiron return. We can look at those specific returns and see how your chart will change based off of the transits happening at that exact moment. And we can see how it's going to affect your purpose for that chapter of your life, and your personality even for that chapter of your life, the things that are going to be more important in that chapter of your life. But once again, the thing that's consistent with navigating any of those chapters is going to be using your strategy and authority that you're born with. That's always there for you to be navigating any transition in life. So it's two sides, once again, the polarity, but it's always rooted in, how am I empowered right now in this moment to navigate and be my own authority? Because that's a big theme in human design. Our mind is brilliant. It's here to observe. It's here to process. It's here to have conversations like this and create and understand and teach. But it's not here to make our decisions for us. That actually lies within our body. And everyone has a unique way of accessing their truth within their body. There's 8 different authorities. And a lot of times we operate from the place of the mind of like, okay, it has to make sense. My mind's going to run in circles and circles until I know all the pros and cons. I have so much anxiety or so much doubt or whatever it is. And if you can drop out of your mind into your body and feel what your body's truth is, it allows your mind to become this passenger consciousness, which Ra talks about a lot, how your mind is here to be in the back seat of the car, looking out the window and saying, ooh, that's interesting. Never realized that. I want to talk about that. But it's not meant to drive your car. Your authority is meant to drive your car. And that's really one of those places within, that's how you're making the decisions of, I want to turn on this street, or I want to go down that highway. You're tuning back into your authority.
Brilliant. And that's one thing I found with human design so far is I am a psychic empath myself. So I downloaded my own truths, but I knew them above and beyond astrology. And then I'm seeing some of those come through in human design as part of the system, such as the mind is the observer, and even like Eckhart Tolle, really his work is all about making the mind the observer and not the driver of the narrative. And looking into human history, you can see where the mind was high. We probably operated as hunters and gatherers from that human design place. But then once you had like organized religion and governments and people who wanted control, we were sort of forced into our mind, and our mind became this driver of consciousness versus the observer of consciousness. So I find that to be really fascinating. Is there a mundane aspect of human design? Like, there is an astrology where we're looking at the collective, more than one individual, looking at the world's collective human design. Is there that aspect of the study?
With the new paradigm coming up, Ra Ruhu talks about we're shifting into this new paradigm in 2027. And that's when we are shifting as collective into a new cross of incarnation. So for the last 400 years, we've been in this cross of incarnation, which is all about planning and building. So this is very mind-oriented of building structures, building schools, building, companies and countries, and almost like us, you can't sit with us and like, my church is better than your church. Like, you're not part of my race. You're not part of my family. You're not part of my religion. So it's been very much helping us to build structures and infrastructure within our world. And now we are shifting into more spiritual, emotional, individual energy of, okay, yes, we have all these structures, but what ones are taking advantage of our individuality? What ones are greedy and not supporting me as a unique soul with empathy and emotions and spirit, and are just kind of blanket statement or trying to control us as a mass? So this new paradigm is all about being a unique individual and finding your place as a completely individual person within the collective. And a lot of that's rooted within spirituality, within understanding emotions and how our emotional energy works and communicates with others. And we're seeing so much of that already, having so much more emotional intelligence now than we did 5 years ago. So we're really shifting into this place of understanding that we are all different. And any of the companies and things that are trying to box us in, Ra says they're going to crumble. They're going to go away, because it's all about being an individual within the collective. And if it's not honoring that, it's time to go. So it's
perfectly. And that era starts in 2027, huh?
Yes. But it's not going to be like January 1st, 2027, like poof,
right.
everything.
Oh.
It's like we're feeling the shift already.
Right.
And then, it's going to be hundreds of years in that new era. Like when we started this cross of planning, we didn't have all this infrastructure that we have now. So it's going to take a long time to build that, but that's really where we're shifting as a collective, as a whole, is into that more unique, spiritual, emotional understanding of like not labeling things as good or bad, but it just is. Letting yourself feel the full range of emotions without judging it, communicating that, but how do you honor your individual needs while still being a part of a family or being a part of a community? How does that work without tearing the whole community down and just saying everybody fend for themselves? That's really not what it is. It's finding your place within the whole.
In the universe, which is literally the age of Aquarius, as far as I'm concerned. So there's alignment there. The Mayan calendar and the Mayan shift in 2012. There's many schools point to this, and it sounds like the Ra period started somewhere around the Industrial Revolution. Just if you want to look at it from a mechanical, sociological perspective, it sounds like we're coming out of that revolution. Fascinating stuff. So let's speak to the individual a little bit, in the sense of and kind of go back to the basics, in the sense that, and this is what I love. This is sort of like, again, if I'm in a party now, it's like, what's your sign? But in human design, it's what's your energetic type. Would you mind walking us through the 5 energetic types so we can typecast our audience?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So human design is so vast. There are so many layers, but your type is the starting point. It's the first basic foundation. And there's only 5 different energetic types, and those describe the 5 different auras. And so every person is one of the 5, and they'll have that energy their entire life. So let's start with manifestors. Manifestors are more rare. They're less than 10% of the population. Now, these are people whose aura is closed and designed to be very impactful. They have a powerful energy that amplifies everything they say and do. So they play this role as initiators. They are catalysts of change. Whether they like it or not, their energy alone is designed to impact you. With their words, with their actions, they start new things. They're like a fire starter, but they don't have a consistent amount of energy to finish what they start. They're meant to start new things and innovate and then pass on that fire to someone else. And they have this very powerful presence. So it can feel kind of scary to be around a manifestor, because they're so impactful, so powerful, but kind of closed. You can't really read them. So they have this strategy of informing, speaking out loud what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they're wanting to do next. And that eliminates resistance, because it opens up a window in this closed aura and allows people to kind of get on board. It just creates more ease in their life, but it is a daily practice for them to practice informing, and helps this powerful, impactful, closed aura really kind of have the most harmony in their relationships around them, and frees them to be able to start new things and have other people come in and help them finish it, so they're free to move on to the next thing. Then we have generators. Now, generators are more common. They're about 35% of the population. And generators have this aura that's open instead of closed like the manifestor, this open aura, open and enveloping. It's warm, it's inclusive, and they have this abundance of life force energy. They are here to build, work on things, and see it through to completion. And when they are in love with what they're doing, they generate more and more and more life force energy that spills out of their open aura and nourishes and feeds and invigorates and inspires the people around them. So for generators, it's crucial that they're doing what they love. And that's what they're working on. That's what they're building. That's what they're creating. Because if they're working on something that they don't love, they dwindle their life force energy, they drain their battery, and they stop generating life force energy and nourishing other people like they're meant to do. So it's so important for generators to not people please and to really only say yes to what they truly love. And their strategy that helps them do that is called responding. And it means letting life come to them and then allowing their body to respond to their environment. If their body bumps into something and goes, ooh, I like that, that's a positive sacral response. And that's coming from their sacral center, energy center. Now, if they bump into something in their environment and they're like, I could take it or leave it, they feel a lack of energy in response to this thing, that's your body saying it's not aligned for you to do this thing. It's not lighting you up. So if they're in their mind saying, what do I love? What lights me up? They can really get lost and feel a lot of frustration. But if they're present and tune into their body and kind of sit back and let life come to them, and then just pay attention when they do get a positive response to something they've bumped into, that's how they find things to work on with their powerful energy. That's going to be sustainable for them. And that's going to help them feed the people around them.
And I want to add to that, that generators, I mean, we're all bumping into things all the time, whether it's a text, whether it's literally you open your fridge and you're like, what do I want to make? It's an email. We're literally bumping into life all the time. And I think a lot of times generators can feel like, so I just have to wait for life to come to me. Like that feels really disempowering. And it really is not about waiting. It's about presence and tuning in with, okay, what's actually in front of me right now? Is it this text? Is it this email? Is it this conversation I'm overhearing at the coffee shop? Like what's actually here? Do I feel energized in my body, or do I just feel like blah, like I'm on autopilot? If you're on autopilot, that's kind of that you're creating as a generator, is just like blah. But if you are feeling like, ooh, I want to text that person back right away, I want to make this meal right now, that energy is so magnetic that then you attract things to you that are like that energy, that you're going to say, ooh, I want to create that project with them, or I want to say yes to that job. So you really can't force it or fake it as a generator. You can try and say like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, sure. And you feel like you're drudging through the mud to it, or you just feel blah. And so really checking out as a generator, if you're listening, anything that feels mediocre or autopilot or blah, because that's the trickiest one that we really get trapped in, just going through life in the blah zone. But as a generator, you are meant to move through life in that like turned on, take a bite out of my whole freaking life energy. That's when you are in the right place at the right time and you are the most magnetic.
Yes. So the next type is manifesting generator. And as it sounds, manifesting generators are kind of like a hybrid of these first two types that we talked about, manifester and generator. So what there really are is a variation of the generator type. So they have this open, enveloping aura that passes on energy, but they also have this impactful nature, the way that a manifester does. So they're also here to build what they love, just like a generator. They're here to work on things that light them up and spread on that energy, energize other people around them. They're also really here to innovate, to be trailblazers, and to impact change, to be catalysts for change, just like a manifester. So for a manifesting generator, the main difference between that and a generator is that man-gens, as we call them, are designed to use their creative and capable powerhouse energy on lots of different things. Diversity and variety are so important in the life of a manifesting generator. If they're doing one thing forever, they will get bored and they will burn out simply from boredom. Manifesting generator, they might have 2 careers or even 3 careers, or a career that has many different facets where they get to use their creative, efficient, and capable energy in different ways every single day. But their strategy is also responding, sitting back, letting life come to them, magnetizing opportunities, and when they bump into something, checking in with their body's response to that thing. If they get a positive response, that indicates that this thing is correct for them or aligned for them to use. And also informing along the way helps eliminate resistance and just kind of get people on board, since they are such a trailblazer and innovator. They're often ahead of the curve. By informing, it helps people kind of get on board and accept whatever it is they're wanting to do or create next.
And then the next type,
Fascinating.
yeah, it's like we could talk about these forever. There's more just scratching the surface. And I are. So projectors are population, and projectors have this aura that is penetrating and focused. So our aura as a projector goes inside of the other, penetrates into the other to see the other deeply. So projectors are literally designed to look at other people and to try to see them in a deeper way. They're also able to go into systems and ideas in that way. It's almost like we lose ourselves in our ability to see the other. And because of that, projectors can have a major blind spot when it comes to seeing themselves. But the pro with this penetrating aura is that it allows us to give other people insight and advice and guidance. So projectors are really here to guide the energy use of other people. And projectors do not make a consistent amount of energy to do or build on their own. They're really here to share their insight, to see, to share efficiency gains and tweaks and advice, but they are not able to work consistently the way a generator or a manifesting generator can. So for a projector, they're really here to work less, to work smarter, not harder. They're only designed to work about 4 hours a day of energy, burn out and have a lot of health problems, but they're really here to focus on, how do I see the world? How do I see this person? They're very psychologically minded. And when they start to kind of work less and focus more on what they see, they attract invitations to be able to guide other people. Because with this penetrating aura, if they try to give it advice, it can be very repelling. So their whole strategy as a projector is to wait for the invitation, to let someone recognize your wisdom and invite it in. And once you have that invitation, then your advice can be really valuable and powerful. And you can get paid a lot of money to give someone advice. But if you're trying to feed a closed mouth, you're always going to be swimming upstream as a projector. So that strategy is wait for the invitation, focus on your own zone of genius and let people come to you. That's how your energy is designed to flow. And then the last type are reflectors. These are like our unicorns. Only 1% of the population are reflectors. And reflectors have a completely open chart. They're like this chameleon. They take in the energy of the world and the people around them like a sponge and temporarily become or reflect, mirror back that energy. So they can be everything that they come across. And at the end of the day, they empty all that out and they can become nothing, if you will. So they have this very powerful aura that is like this sampling, open, sponge-like, reflective quality. And they can show you your own reflection when you're spending time with them. They can show you who is authentic or not, who is healthy and aligned or not. And our reflector is like a gauge for the health of our overall environment, our overall collective. So as a reflector, you have this profound wisdom, but it's also very overwhelming to be so open, to be such a chameleon in this world. So their strategy is waiting a 28-day lunar cycle. By slowing down and waiting a whole lunar cycle before making any decisions, they make sure that they're checking in with their own clarity instead of living life as an amplified version of all of the people around them. So reflectors are the only one of the 5 types that are a lunar being. All of the other 4 types are solar beings, but reflectors operate on this lunar calendar. And in that 1 month, the moon moves through the whole astrological wheel, or all of the 64 gates that are in that wheel. And the reflector activates all of those qualities in 1 month. So if they give themselves that whole lunar cycle, they can really find their own clarity instead of getting lost in the reflection of the world around them.
Wow, that's really powerful. I wonder, just hearing that about the law of attraction. So does the law of attraction then really only apply to generators and man generators then, as far as what we've been taught about creating our own reality, or does law of attraction happen for everyone, you think?
No, I mean, law of attraction, we really believe happens for everyone. However, it's about the way in which you're going about it, right? As a generator, a manifesting generator, it's about being present and listening to that energy that's there. That's really increasing your magnetism. As a projector, it's really asking what fascinates me. Like, what can I stay up all night reading about or talking about? Like, what genuinely is so fascinating to me? And when you are in that like fascination zone, I like to call it, that's when you are your most magnetic. And people start seeing you like, what are you reading? Like, what is it that you're learning? I want to know more. Like, come on my podcast or come show me this thing. And so that's how you increase that magnetism as a projector. As a reflector, it's really about tuning in and really noticing, like, how are things feeling? Am I feeling healthy? Am I not? If I'm not, can I go to a different environment and see how I'm feeling? Can I be the gauge? And that is then going to bring you to the right people, the right places to have whatever it is you're trying to manifest or attract to you. And then as a manifester, they are incredible at manifesting things and attracting things to them, because when they speak, it initiates the world around them. And it rallies energy. So if a manifestor says to someone, I'm really struggling with this thing, people around them naturally will start to find solutions for them. Like, oh, I talked to this person and that was the perfect thing for you. You should reach out to them. So with manifestors, it really is all about opening your mouth and saying everything that you feel internally. But this does not come naturally as a manifestor. Manifestors actually are the only type where their strategy does not feel good to do at first. It feels like, I just want to do my own thing. I want to be left alone in peace. I don't want to have to tell everyone everything I'm doing and thinking, because then people are going to try to control me. And ultimately, manifestors want freedom. And so when they can use their words, they increase their magnetism so much, they attract what they're wanting so quickly. But it does take that kind of first hurdle to say, I don't know what I'm doing, or this is a struggle for me, or this has been really challenging and I don't have the answer yet, or I'm creating this thing and I don't have it fully fleshed out yet, but I'm just sharing it. So I would encourage any manifestor who's listening to talk out loud to yourself, to the universe, to your close friends and family. Say it out loud, because it fast tracks everything, and it does increase your magnetism with that law of attraction. So every single type is magnetic. It's just you're going about increasing your magnetism in a different way.
Fascinating. So that guy talking to himself on the street in LA is a manifester. No, I'm just kidding.
He might
Thank
be
you.
a manifestor who was around a manifestor.
Right. Okay. There you go. So then what then is a personal authority? It's like an extra little, adjective that's added to this in essence, right? Is it tied to the chakras? Am I correct in that? And
It is. Yeah, it's tied to the chakras. So your strategy is how you are interacting with the world, right? And how you are increasing that magnetism, going about your day. And then your authority is how you are making decisions, big decisions throughout your life and throughout your day.
Okay.
With your authority, like I said, your mind is here to observe and process. Your authority is here to make your decisions. And human design ultimately is helping to empower you to become your own authority, where you decide for yourself if something is right for you, not your doctor, not your teacher,
right,
your boss, or your parents, but you really being the authority of your own life. Looks like saying, okay, I have this big decision. Let me make it with my unique authority and see how it works out. A lot of people, they've already been using their authority, and then a lot of people haven't. So there's 8 different authorities, and about half the population have emotional authority, where you can have emotional highs and lows randomly through and you can wake up on the right side of the bed for no reason. A lot of confusion in the world because people can search for a reason why they're feeling a certain emotion, why they're feeling a high or a low. And so just knowing that you have emotional authority is huge, because you have random emotions, and that time to make a decision. I just want to double check that you can hear us here. Looks like we were frozen.
We had a frozen moment there. It must have been my emotional authority flipping out. Sorry.
Yeah. So anyone with emotional authority, it's so important that they're giving themselves time to out their emotions, become emotionally neutral and ask, will this make me happy? So not, is this going to make me more money? Should I do this? Is this right? It really is, will this make me happy from an emotionally neutral place? And because half the population has this, that's why we're really conditioned to take time for big decisions, because that works for half of the world. But then the rest of everyone else does not operate in this way. A large portion of the population has sacral authority, which is all about making gut decisions in the present moment. Like your gut is telling you it's a hell yes or a hell no. And if it's anything in between, it's a no for now. And so if somebody with emotional authority tells you, sleep on it, like give yourself time, this is a really big decision to quit your job, for example. For anyone with sacral authority, that's going to pull them away from their truth. They're going to feel even more unsure, and then they're just not going to make the decision for a long time. So trusting your gut is the way to go. And then there's splenic authority, which is once again very spontaneous, but this is all about your instincts, your intuition, that subtle, like it just right, or it just feels wrong. You have consistent instincts and intuition if you have splenic authority. So trusting that first thing that you felt is key. If you give yourself time or ask, am I sure? You're going to start getting in your mind and be like, well, I don't know. Am I sure? What was it? What are all the things? And then you need to let that thing come back around to you to feel that instinct or intuition. And then there's more rare authorities like mine. I have G center authority, where it's all about talking out loud, and hearing your internal world spoken makes it linear for you to understand what it is that you want. So having friends that you can talk it out with, speaking out loud to yourself every day and hearing what comes out. You cannot access your truth as a G center authority person unless you speak out loud. And that was huge for me to understand and know. And the question you're asking yourself with this is, does this feel like it's on my path? Or does it feel like it's a parallel path somehow? Like it just feels like it's not my life. It's just separate path. We also get into a mental authority, which is actually all about getting in your mind, weighing out the pros and cons, getting everything on the drawing board, but then setting it aside and going to your favorite environments that feel really good to you, like your favorite coffee shop or lookout or place in your house or your yard, and feeling in your body, does this feel right? Like I got the mental side out of the way, and now I'm going to these environments that feel really clear and healthy to me, to then let the energy there help sift it into my body of, does this feel right in my body, or does it feel wrong for some reason? And letting that be the thing that guides you. So all of the different authorities are still, once again, in the body. It's just a different way of listening to your body based off of your authority. So that was very like just scratching the surface with these different authorities, because we could talk about them for the rest of our lives, and we probably will, but it's so fascinating and empowering to learn yours once you dive in.
And important to know like what voice inside of you go to listen to, because a lot of times we have all these voices inside of us, which is part of what I teach and study with astrology, and knowing which one is the one that you should have the deciding vote. It sounds like the G center authority is the person who's like, are you trying to convince me or yourself? Like that's those personalities. It's like, oh, now I know. That's like, oh, that's just G center authority. Now that brings me to G center in general. Like, so it's not the standard 7 chakras. That's one thing I noticed. And I studied that, or what I've learned so far is that when Uranus was discovered, one of the chakras split into 2. Am I correct about that? So there's really 9 centers inside of us, and the heart's like off to the side, and there's something called the G center where the heart normally is. Can you just give us, a basis of what that's about?
Yeah, so before 1781, the furthest planet that we had awareness of was Saturn. So we were operating on these Saturnian cycles. Even our lifetime expectancy was operating on these Saturnian cycles. And when Uranus was discovered, it actually was such a powerful discovery for our collective awareness that it caused a spiritual evolution in our human race, from just having this further awareness. And now our life expectancy is longer because we're operating on these Uranian cycles.
Oh,
so our
fascinating
life crisis happens halfway through on our Uranus opposition when we're around 40, and we live to be about 80 years old. Whereas that's such a different lifestyle or life expectancy because of that. So it's not that when the chakras split, they kind of got more advanced, more evolved. So it's not that the old 7-centered chakra system doesn't work in communion. They're still so similar. It's just a new complex twist and turn because spiritually we're evolving and advancing. And actually in 2027, we're going to continue to evolve and advance until finally our physical form starts to change. So it's really, we're kind of this evolving being, and we're this version that's bridging the gap between what we were and what we will be. So the heart center, as we know it in the 7-centered chakra system, kind of split off and made this G center and this heart. But we really like to think of them both working together in communion as our heart center. So when we're doing meditations, we talk about the G center and the heart center being there together. Although the G center is much more the center of identity, of self-love, of passion, whereas the heart center now is much more about willpower, motivation. When my heart is in, I'm really wanting to work on that thing. So they do have different correspondences and then even different biological correspondences, but they are kind of coming from one same origin and sort of do work together in a more spiritual sense. And then also we have the splenic center, which split off from the solar plexus. So the splenic center is all about safety instincts and body awareness. And then the solar plexus is much more about emotions and also spiritual awareness. So we like to say that we still use, when we're doing yoga, meditations, and other modalities, we like to see how the 7-centered chakra system and the 9-centered really are one and the same and they go in communion. It's just that the 9-center is sort of a more advanced, new complex layer. And it's something that we're only now growing into. It's a fairly new transition in the history of human beings on Earth. And it's a part of our spiritual evolution to really grow into this new solar plexus center. So that center in particular has a lot of importance in our spiritual evolution. The more we can learn to understand our emotions, the more spiritually evolved and advanced we become. And that will be the key to helping us as a human species evolve in the direction that we're meant to evolve. So there's a lot to unpack there, and we could have this conversation about just this also for an entire hour. But it is really fascinating to kind of allow, we like to say everything in human design is an experiment and a concept, and it's not something that we subscribe to as our total truth. But it is something like that we're here to experiment with and explore with.
Brilliant. And I do understand. In fact, ladies and gentlemen watching the show, they literally have a podcast on that runs an hour on all these topics. Like each one is an hour. I tried to listen to as many as I could, and they're all great. You ladies bounce off each other so well too. It's a yin yang. I can see the lunar and the day. One last concept, just I think to put in the basis here, because I know we could talk forever, is just the idea of gates and channels. Like that's the last, I think, kindergarten thing that I'd like to hear about, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So your gates create your channels, basically. Your gates, if you look at your chart, you're going to see all of these shapes. Those are your chakras. And then you're going to see all of these numbers on your chakras with lines that are connecting to the other chakras. So your gates are your gifts, your inherent gifts that you're born with. So if you look at your body graph, you'll see the columns on the right and left-hand side with the planets and then a number next to it. And that is the planet that is illuminating that gate within your body graph. So then you can look at your body graph and find gate 19 and see that it's colored in. And so if, for example, you have gate 19 and then the other end, gate 49, that would then create a channel of energy that is consistently flowing, creating, in this example, an emotional wave for you. Creating the connection between your root and your solar plexus. So the gates are your gifts, and then they come together. When they communicate like that, it creates a channel, which is almost like a flowing gift that you're always here to have. It's like a more complex version of that quality, if you will. So these are the gifts that you're here to share in your work, with your family, in your own life, outwardly, with others. And these qualities tell us a lot about your purpose of who you're here to be, how you're here to help the world, the energy that you're here to be, and all of the things that you do and create and share. And so I would encourage anyone listening to start looking at your gifts, your channels that you have, because that's really prominent energy within your chart. And then to look at your sun gates and your earth gates, because those are your most important qualities. They create your life, your cross of incarnation, which is like your life purpose in human design. And it tells us a lot about how you're here to really impact the world. So sun gates, earth gates, and then your channels would definitely be the place to start.
That's fascinating. It almost sounds like, so planets are what activate a gate, basically. And it sounds, and a channel is almost like an aspect then, because aspects are sort of like the circuitry of two gates or two channels in astrology, right? Or two,
That's what it is.
two planets in astrology. That's fascinating, because that's what aspects and transits, really interesting and fascinating. There's some, we can talk obviously forever here, and you ladies have been so gracious with your time and your energy. Your website is phenomenal. Everyone, I recommend going there. You can get a free chart there, first of all, and it's beautifully designed, by the way. Everything is so, I don't know who did your work, but, oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, you're very talented. Everything is so clean and just in its place and has such a great value. And you have podcasts. These ladies have trainings. They have suggested readers. You can see the reader's personality. So now, do you recommend choosing a reader that's like me? You know, like that has the same authority and the same energy type?
Yeah. So definitely if you're brand new, yes, go for that. If you don't know anything about human design. However, if you know a bit about it, and say you've listened to the podcast or you've read our book or something like that, where you've gotten an intro and you really understand your design a bit, then I would recommend using your authority and with who feels right to you or who you have that energy towards, or talk it out, like use your authority, because having a human design reading literally changes your life. And it changed our lives. Every single person we've met with, like, it is life changing. It's one of those moments that you don't go back from. So I would encourage you to use your authority. But if you're not familiar with human design, then yes, look for the similar numbers and information that's on your chart and go with that, because obviously they have a lived experience of it as well that can be really supportive.
Although just from your explanation, it sounds like a projector would get the most, project into me the most, and a reflector would become me in that moment, right? Like, so there's different strategies there if you're going to play spiritual poker and choose somebody. What do you recommend then when someone comes to your life, which is your website, which is danalunalife.com? Where do you recommend they start in this process? A very beginner, like, where do I start as a beginner?
Yeah. So when you go to daylunalife.com, it kind of directs you to say, start here, but you generate your chart for free. Our chart, we put the most information you can get on that chart. There's other softwares out there that only give you like the beginner stuff, but we wanted you to have everything. So that way you can go on this journey of exploring yourself. Then you can either get our book, which is called Your Human Design. You can get that anywhere that books are sold. And then you can listen to our podcast. If you want to dive in that way, you can just book a reading. If you're like, I want to know everything about me and I don't have time to go on a self-study thing. You also can take our training. We have so many people who have taken our human design reader training and used it within their business, because like I said, moving into this new paradigm, it's all about personalization, understanding people as individuals and honoring individual needs. So many people have taken our training that use that within their own business that has nothing to do with human design. So there's a lot of different ways you can dive in depending on how much you want to learn and how far you want to go. We also have videos. We have retreats. We have just so many things. We have ritual kit boxes, which make amazing gifts that basically give you a booklet explaining your energy along with different tools based on your chart to help you really integrate this in a more tangible way, because some people learn better that way. So there's really however you want to dive, generate your chart first and then go from there.
Brilliant. And I encourage all of our subscribers or people part of the Serious Joy Club to print out your chart and post it in our club. I'd love to just start to see some of those personalities that I know so well on social media and what their charts are. Do you have, ladies, any final words for the human race before we close this interview?
Well, I think there's so many people on planet Earth that sometimes it can feel overwhelming with how many people are on planet Earth. Like, am I actually special? Do I actually matter? Do I actually have a purpose that is going to change the world? I feel like sometimes we can just get lost in the sea of how much diversity there is on this planet. But the truth is, Every single person who is here is like a critical puzzle piece. And we need every person to be who you are. That is your purpose. That's the role that you're here to play. And your role is so needed for the collective harmony and the collective shifting. So my main message that I want to say is you matter, and your purpose is so much more within you than you even know. And I really like to impart that on people, because if you're showing up in this moment right now as your true self, you are playing a sacred role that the world needs from you. And it is the world for you to step into your authenticity, to lead your life with love and alignment and as your true and free pure self.
Yeah. And I would just say that you're empowered right now in this moment. A lot of times we can think, oh, I'll do that once I A, B, C, and D. I'll do that once I have more time or more money or more freedom. And I just want you to know that right now in this moment, with just your body and your breath and the ground beneath your feet, there's so much empowerment for you to change your life just by tuning in and developing awareness of what's actually there. It's all within you. Human design just gives you languaging to understand what it means and empowers you to dive into who you are. But you're right now. It's not outside of you. It is within you. And with all of the people on the planet, you're going to be changing the world, whether you consciously decide to or not, just by having a conversation with someone. So you're changing the world no matter what. So why not do it with awareness? Why not do it with that consciousness of truly honoring what you came here to do and who you came here to be?
Beautifully said, ladies. Thank you so much, Dana and Shayna, for being a part of this. I'd love to have you guys back, ladies, back sometime. Maybe go deeper on another topic. I encourage everyone to visit their website and run your chart, post it in our group and let us know. And if you ladies wouldn't mind staying backstage for just a minute after the show, I'd love to have a follow-up with you.
Yes. Thank you so much for having us. It's been so fun.
Thank you. Your beautiful expressions and very powerful. I completely concur with everything you said tonight. It's just wonderful. Thank you. Wow, that was amazing. Wow. I mean, that was an amazing interview. I'm so grateful for the ladies for joining us. Really gave me some tremendous clarity on human design, which is really like human development. I mean, it's more than design. It's how we develop ourselves and come into our power. So special thanks to both of them for coming here tonight. Just to wrap up our show, thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate you. We love you. Serious Joy, my personal sensei service and astrology service, is here to guide you into your light. We have a very special program coming up. First, so I want to point out that we have this weekend a new feature going live, which is our lunar ceremonies. Our lunar ceremonies with Joe Zammit. So we're actually providing a wonderful ceremony to work through this solar eclipse energy. It comes with basically a kit that you can build yourself. She gave us how to be creative and develop your altar. She also helps you through the actual ceremony itself, how to really embrace this solar eclipse. She'll also be here for the lunar eclipse at the end of the month. Her name is Jo Zammit. She is from Australia. She's a master Virgo and she's got a master Taurus solar eclipse. This lady knows what she's doing and you're going to love the richness of it. That is free with your subscription to SeriousJoy.com. You can sign up for $3.99. Also, coming on October 23rd, we have the 40 Days of Truth and Purpose. I'm so excited about this. This is going to be a team effort. I'm going to walk you through your chart, one day, one planet, or one aspect, or one calculation, or one lot, or one. So it's one planet a day, one aspect a day, basically for 30 days. And then the last 12 days, we actually focus on, well, what is my purpose? Your astrology chart shows what you are, who you are, your truth, and it reveals what your purpose is. This program was designed after the number one question I get in readings. What is my purpose, Sensei? And I am basically sharing with you some of my secret ingredients to how I interpret truth and purpose in my readings. So this is a great way. If you're brand new, you can sign up for $3.99. It's $19.99, $19.95 from that point after. If you want to just do for 40 days and unsubscribe, that's like $23.95 basically for your entire chart. Where can you get and understand your chart? We're going to be purchasing journals so that you have something nice that you can keep with it. And there's a few surprises in there that I'm not going to reveal right now that come along with the program. So 40 Days of Truth and Purpose starts October 23rd. Sign up now at SeriousJoy.com. Also on Serious Joy, last week we had Keeping It Real with Kristen Ryder. We had 3 fantastic subscribers coming on and speaking about relationships where they were betrayed and how they got through it. I hear so often all kinds of people talking about narcissistic relationships and how people are toxic in relationships, but how do you survive one of these? How do you get out of one of these? Kristen Ryder looks at their chart. These ladies share their stories. It's fascinating. There's even a twin flame story in there. It's fantastic. It is now live on Serious Joy. This week on Wednesday, we have our self-study hall with Robbie Hunt. She's our metaphysical minister and astrologer. And self-study hall is where we teach a little bit about astrology every month. This month, she'll be speaking to the nodes, the lunar nodes in your chart. She'll be speaking to how the nodes are now in Aries and Libra, but she'll be looking at 3 subscribers, their astrology, their nodes, and how to make nodes work for you. That's live this Wednesday, streaming live in the app at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with the fabulous metaphysical minister, Robbie Hunt. By the way, she's a Grandmaster Aquarius, step 22. She's no joke. She knows her knowledge. Sharing is caring, ladies and gentlemen. Please share us with your friends and family. That's the way we've always organically grown. I've been at this for 17 years now. Our audience comes from people saying, hey, you ought to watch Sensei Christopher. He's got some fascinating stuff. Some people do like to donate or tip their sensei. For those who do, I'm grateful. I will accept and receive without resistance at paypal.me/Sensei Christopher. Or come on down to our Facebook club at seriousjoy.club. We are now launching this week. We've launched a new human design study group for comparing people's learning. So if you want to learn with a group of people, this is absolutely free. We have a human design study group in the seriousjoy.club. There'll be lectures. There'll be people sharing charts. Hopefully people will be sharing their Dayluna charts in this group. It's seriousjoy.club. Only 2 rules we have. No politics, and always compassion in your responses. If you'd like to follow me or Serious Joy on any of our social media, our social media tree is at seriousjoy.social. All our links are there, including interviews with me in the past, where I've been a guest on other interviews, as well as getting on our marketing email list, because we do send interesting things and facts in the email once a week. We don't bombard your email box. And lastly, if you would rather listen instead of watch, we are on 3 podcast platforms right now. We'll be spreading out to others, but we're on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts, really the creator of the podcast phenomenon. All right, friends. Well, it is a very eclectic and powerful night. I want to say thank you once again to our special guests, Shayna and Dana of Dayluna. I want to say thank you to my business partner, Eben Freeman. I want to say thank you also to our producer, Noah Way. Thank you also to our director, Sarah Lyman. And thank you, every one of you who is watching and sharing it with us. I'll be back 1 week in the aftermath of the solar eclipse. Until then, please remember, I love you. Live, love, be.